The following is a presentation of the St. Louis Chess Club. Elite women's chess is taking center stage at the Cairns Cup in St. Louis. American phenom Alice Lee continues to impress, defeating former women's world champion Mariya Muzychuk to remain in pole position. Georgian legend Nana Dzagnidze got her first win of the event, rebounding after a disappointing day one loss to jump back into contention. The youngest and lowest rated player is in clear first over an illustrious field. How long can the underdog remain on top? Day 3 of exciting chess coming up next.
I'm here in the Q Boutique in the World Chess Hall of Fame. It is round 3, and I'm making a mess of myself playing chess on the store's chess sets. Over to you in studio for round 3.
After 2 days of fighting chess at this year's Cairns Cup, one player has taken the early lead. Will anyone join the leader? We will find out today as round 3 from the St. Louis Chess Club starts right now. Hello everyone and welcome to the show. I am woman grandmaster Katerina Nemcova and I'm joined by international masters Almira, Skripchenko and Nazi Paikidze. Ladies, what a great day ahead of us.
Hello, hello. Good to be with you again.
Hello, Katerina. Hello, Nazi. Hello, everyone, and welcome. As the Cairns Cup moves into its highly anticipated third round, all eyes are fixed on the remarkable performance by Alice Lee. She defied all the expectations by achieving the perfect score. It actually reminded me of another outstanding performance. 2 years ago, Anna Zatonskih won the Cairns Cup, being the lowest rated player in the field. So will history repeat itself? Katerina, let's have a look at this pairings or standings.
Standings, let's take a look at standings because we do have a lot of fighting chess in this tournament. And so far we have a sole leader, Alice Lee, who won yesterday's round, and today she is 2 out of 2. And then there's a 3-way tie for the second place. Humpy, Koneru, Harika, Dronavalli and Alina, Kashlinskaya with 1.5 points. And as you can see, it is Mariya Muzychuk right now with 0 points out of 2, so she will try to get back in this round.
So the former world champion Mariya Muzychuk is at the bottom of the field.
And this says a lot about this field, how strong it is. And let's take a look at the format of this event. Today we have round 3. The format. It is a 10-player round robin where each player plays everybody else in the field. Time control, we play classical chess, 90 minutes for first 40 moves, followed by 30 minutes for rest of the game, and there is a 30-second increment from move 1. In none of the games, draw offers are allowed. And traditional scoring system, 1 point for a win, half a point for a draw, and 0 points for a loss.
Katerina,
and now,
yes, for the moment we actually have 70% of decisive games.
Wow.
What a number, yes.
What a number. So maybe even the rule of no draw offers allowed is not necessary in this tournament. So let's take a look at the schedule. We play 1 round a day. Today, round 3, it's Thursday, June 12th, then 2 more rounds and players get to have a rest day on Sunday, June 15th. And if necessary, you can see that on Friday, June 20th, we will see playoffs. Now, Nazi, which is the player you will be focusing on?
Thank you, Katerina. Well, so far it's been the Alice Lee show. She's playing some brilliant chess and we can't wait to see more of her games. So let's take a look at the current standings. As we already highlighted, Alice Lee, perfect score, 2 out of 2. But she's not just leading any event. Look at this field. She's ahead of the absolute best players in the world. Let's talk more about Alice. We already know she has the perfect score and she won both games beautifully, outplayed her opponents. She's the youngest and lowest rated player as well, which is not stopping her. And she has already won American Cup twice. That's a huge achievement. She defeated Arena Crush twice. Absolutely impressive lady. And in this event, she's looking to earn her first GM norm. She already has +2 score. She needs +3 at the end of this event. Let's see who she is playing today. Wow, she's facing a very strong grandmaster from Georgia, Nana Dzagnidze. So far, they've only played each other once. I believe that was last year at the Cairns Cup, and they made a draw. So we'll see how the game goes today. It's going to be a very interesting one for sure. Now, to hear more about other big matchups, we go to Hall of Fame to hear from one and only Yasser Seirawan.
Thank you, Nasi. Hello, everyone. Indeed, before it turns into the Alice Lee show, let's take a look at 2 encounters that I'm going to be keeping my eye up on. Bibi. She is the number 3 player in the field, seeded number 3, against Tan, who is our defending champion and number 1 seed. And remarkably, in their head-to-head, there's nothing to report. This will be their first encounter ever, and a very, very important one, as both ladies really need a win. Another encounter I'm keeping my eye on is the one between Humpy and Alina. Both of these ladies are actually tied for second, and Humpy has a really massive edge in their head-to-head matchup. Some very, very nice round 3 games coming up as I throw it back to studio for all the pairings.
Thank you, Yasser. And Katerina, let's have a look at the pairings of the 3rd round.
We have exciting matchups in this round. So we start with Harika Dronavalli playing Mariya Muzychuk. Harika will try to catch up to Alice Lee and take advantage of Mariya's Muzychuk shape that it's not very well right now in the tournament. Carissa playing Nino Batsiashvili. Alice Lee against Nana Dzagnidze. That is definitely the key matchup of this round. Bibisara Assaubayeva against Zhongyi, and Humpy Koneru playing Alina Kashlinskaya.
So a lot of great games ahead of us. Of course, we will cover the game between Alice Lee and Nana Dzagnidze thoroughly, but we will keep an eye on Humpy Koneru versus Alina Kashlinskaya. Let's have a look at the money.
Yeah, the players are fighting for a very generous prize fund. The total prize fund of $250,000. First place winning $60,000, second place $50,000, and third place $40,000, all the way to the 10th place $7,000. And if there is a clear winner of this event, there is a winner's bonus, $5,000. So thank you so much to St. Louis Chess Club for supporting women with this very strong prize fund in this tournament.
And improving, of course, the conditions for professional players. This is a very important step, I think.
And here we have the star of our show. We are walking behind Alice Lee, who is approaching her board and shaking hands with Nana Dzagnidze.
And for once, she's not the last player to arrive at her board.
This is also the clash of generations, right? Alice Lee, she's only 15, and Nana Dzagnidze has been a big name in chess for 2 decades already, if not more.
Yeah, this is going to be... how do you approach such a game, Nazi? What do you think from Nana's perspective? She's an extremely accomplished player, but she sees this young prodigy in chess.
I think for Nana, she will take it one move at a time, because it's Alice who has the white pieces. She's going to try to play for a win, and Nana will definitely take her chances if Alice takes too much risk.
I had a look at their opening repertoire, so I'm also very curious what would be Nana's choice.
What's your prediction then?
My prediction, well, recently she started to play the Queen's Gambit Accepted. I was very surprised because she always used, her main weapon was either the Nemcovich or knight f6, b6, some rare lines. So she might try and surprise Alice and to find a very unique position. We had this already in many games.
And we have the bell ringer here, our statistician in-house, Ben Underwood, who always supports us with the pie charts, and we're going to go over them as well during this round to see who is most likely to win the event, but also who has bigger chances to win this round.
So Alice Lee defied all the expectations, and she defied all Ben's numbers so far.
Alice is really messing up his charts.
Exactly. This is such a beautiful ritual. I hope that every tournament would have something unique to offer And visually, it's also a very beautiful image. So
And we as players enjoy to see who is the special guest every day.
you have the chief and the deputy arbiters on your screen.
Ben Underwood, who is our statistician for the St. Louis Chess Club for this event. Ben, you may go ahead and ring the bell.
And the round has started.
Might not be easy to concentrate on the chessboard with such a bell ringer, I might say. Okay.
That's on my bucket list now. I want to ring the bell.
D4, knight f6. Okay, Nana is not going for the queen's gambit accepted. I think after c4 she will play e6.
Probably goes for what she knows best, right?
This is very much... Oh, no, b6.
B6,
You
oh.
see? The first surprise.
Nice. Almira, you did your homework and you guessed
Yes,
it.
I did my homework, but very often Nana was playing this with e6 included. So this move order allows her to play also the double fianchetto. I suspect when you play b6 in this way, it's because you want to play g6.
You haven't committed to e6
Yes,
yet,
exactly.
so you have
So
that option, yes.
This is a very peculiar move order. I know it very well.
I will also say, I think Nana chose this because Alice is a Catalan player. She goes g3 third move after e6. That's why Nana chose this, to not allow her to play g3 here.
But let's say...
You can still play g3.
Yes,
but
if I play knight f3, bishop b7, it was just a question. After g3, would you make such a move? You know, bishop f3. Changing the structure, of course, but
Let's pull up Almira's board so we can see.
yes.
Oh, that's interesting. I mean, I hate giving up my bishop, so I
Exactly.
wouldn't do this.
Yeah, I wouldn't do that either. I think light square bishops, especially on such a beautiful diagonal, you want to keep them.
But recently, the computers proved us that there are certain types of position where you simply give up your bishops, and it gives you very interesting play. So we will see.
Speaking about interesting play, let's jump to the game of Harika, Dronavalli, and Mariya Muzychuk. I thought we were going to see 4 knights, like the typical opening, but look at that move, a4. We do have 4 knights, but usually you play move d4. Well, now a4.
You even have a3 in this position. So I am thinking, what is the analogy? They could have been inspired by a5 in the Italian game. It was one of the latest theoretical concepts where in the Italian game they stopped playing a6 and they started to play a5. So a4 is just giving you the option to play next. You know, so like I want...
But it's also losing control of that b4 square, right? This square is suddenly weak.
But I think then, Nazi, maybe you have a few games, so let's say bishop
give you some
d4,
insight.
maybe knight d5 is the idea.
How many times the move was played, Nazi? Tell us.
Right, let's take a look. So the game started with 4 knights, and you can see here there's almost 30,000 games in the database. The main move is bishop b5. There's also d4, like Katerina mentioned. Then there are some popular sidelines as well, like g3. But you have to see that you have to go all the way down here to see a4, and there is only 289 games. And I believe a lot of these are also blitz games, right? So let's take a look how black usually responds. Almira, you were saying bishop b4, right?
Katerina suggested it, and I think knight d5 should be the answer or the reply, but I'm not sure though.
I was more talking about that b4 square being a weakness. I don't know if I want to go there directly with the bishop, but I see a6 being the most popular.
a6 is most popular. I'm guessing that's just stopping bishop b5. Bishop b4 is second popular, after which white doesn't really go knight d5, but plays this strange move. I can't follow this. I also don't know who has played this before, so I wouldn't trust this analysis so far in the database. So let's take a look at a6.
Nazi, it's very interesting because another analogy I can think of, so if white plays here bishop b5, then black's move could be bishop d6.
You mean for white here?
Yes, for white. So we're playing a4
So
and on
Harika
a6,
trying to play with
exactly
black
with the
pieces of
reversed
white.
colors. Could
So
it
wasting
be?
the tempo.
Yes.
On purpose, yeah, just to make her opponent think. I mean, we know Mariya is the player who's having the toughest time in this event, so surprise her in the opening is a great psychological advantage for sure. It's, yeah, I've never seen a4. Have you ever seen a4? No, right?
I recently saw a3. I think it was played at the Women's European Championships several times
A3.
and
Yeah.
with success.
Yeah, A3 has more than 1,000 games. This is a totally fine sideline, but A4, very interesting. We'll see what is her idea behind this, besides the surprise effect, of course.
But the idea could also be the same as when you make the move A3. It's actually not to prevent black from playing bishop b4, but it's to play bishop c4 and to retreat the bishop to A2. That's very important.
Right.
Okay, so let's get back to Alice's game. So we stopped, knight f3 was played. Let's have the position on our screens. Yes, so bishop b7 suggested. Was this played?
No, we need to refresh.
We need to refresh, just I was surprised.
So knight c3.
Knight c3, a3. Okay, this is normal. And Nana is still thinking, but she can go for g6 now, the double fianchetto I was telling you about.
So tell us about the idea behind a3. Why does white need to have a3 here?
Well, first of all, bishop b7 prevents white from playing e4 and taking the center. That's the the main idea. a3 in some lines prevents bishop b4, of course, if you play e6. But now you could have tried, for example, and play queen c2 here. But then, well, you can play e6 and then e4.
E4?
Yes, e4. We can try bishop b4. It's a very rare line as well. But I think that Alice is trying to avoid all the rare lines. She played a3. But I think after a3, the best move would be to try and to play this double fianchetto. Sorry,
so a3?
Yes, a3 and g6.
I can show you a short line after g6 because I did find some games in the database after g6. Computer's not loving this move for black, but we know even when you just play King's Indian, engine already gives white an advantage. So engine's not a fan of g6, bishop g7. So it suggests white should just play d5 right away, e4, just have this setup, beautiful setup in the center with these pawns, castles, and knight f3. There are only 3 games in this position. I was trying to get to a position where you could transpose into some kind of more popular position, but I couldn't find it with this strange move order. So if Nana chooses this, she might voluntarily go into worse position out of the opening and then just try to get some interesting game.
And the thing is, yes, thank you, Nazi. So if she doesn't want to play a dubious opening here, she can simply reply e6, of course.
Instead of g6,
yes,
right?
Instead of g6. But because I don't know what her intentions were at the beginning of the round. So if she wants to confuse her opponent...
So maybe Nana's just avoiding the Catalan, right?
Exactly. And so let's say knight f3 or queen c2, you can simply play d5 here.
That's always the advantage of being an experienced player. I mean, we talked about her having at least 2 decades of playing chess, so she can be kind of switching between lines and trying to throw off Alice from her preparation.
And after e6, the most played move is also d5 here. And then bishop d6, we keep seeing this move again in a different game. Knight f3, castles. And here, what do you think, Katerina? Would you go g3 and fianchetto, or would you develop e4? Both are playable, just matter of preference, right?
I played this line once with bishop d6, yes. I think that Nana has the feel for those positions where you constantly need to find the unusual ideas. Because, you know, this structure is it's very rare. So you cannot master it or have the feel for it by playing a lot of games, unless Alice, played a lot of blitz games or she had a sparring partner. So I would go that Alice was having some classical approach to this game, as we've seen against Nino Batsiashvili. So maybe Nana is trying not to repeat this scenario, and to muddy the waters immediately.
And I think you're right. We see on the board Nana played g6. That's an unusual opening for sure.
Well, I played this one as well, so I can understand.
Were you successful with this opening?
Well, actually, I like those positions very much. So when you play, g6 here, once again, you allow white to grab the center and to dominate completely with having a lot of space. But then you're trying to undermine, the strategy.
So is this the only move we want to go for with white, or can we just continue very normally, just knight f3?
Yes, you can continue with knight f3, of course. And if you will play bishop G7. Well, you can even play G3, but then why did you play A3? So that's
Right.
one of the things, that sometimes A3 in these positions is a loss of a tempo, especially if you're not going for the classical structures with D6 and A5. So let's say you will...
So let's say some normal move. E3.
Castle. Yes,
It's white's turn. Okay.
Sorry, E3,
Castle.
Castle.
Bishop E2. Bishop D3.
D3.
Bishop E2 probably better.
It was an interesting idea. Let me think about this, because you can also play knight e4 at some point. So is it here? I'm trying to remember. Let's try. I just wanted to remember what was on my files. Yes, you can play knight e4 here.
You're sharing your secrets with us.
This was a long time ago. But then you can also, because, you know, now your bishop is here, so it's not blocked by the knight on c6, and you can play c5, knight c6, attacking the pawn, and then you can take on f3. So it's one of the ideas in this opening.
I think that to avoid that line, that's why Alice played queen c2, just to not allow the knight e4 ideas.
So let's refresh the board. Yes, queen c2 is played, and queen c2 is also supporting e4. So then after bishop g7, you can enter a very strange looking King's Indian with the bishop on b7, so the double fianchetto. You can play e4, then...
Probably D6.
Wait a second, can we try something else? Yes, d6.
Question, if you take one move back for black, before white gets to play e4, can black play d5 and play Greenfield style with the bishop on b7?
It's a very strange Greenfield. Let's have a look. So the thing is, so after e4, knight c3, b takes c3, so bishop g7, if we're using the same analogy, so knight f3, castle. By the way, I'm not excluding this move here, because the bishop is already on g7, so this might be possible because...
Just launch an attack on the king side.
Exactly, so I can easily play bishop b3 and rook d1 and protect the center, while, you know, what can you do here?
No, I found only one game in the database, and it was h4.
H4?
Yeah.
Okay, absolutely. Was it me? I'm not sure, but you know, it's like those ideas are always in the air. So I'm not sure that this would be a very comfortable Grunfeld. You know, you need your bishop here, because on many lines in Grunfeld you're playing bishop g4, attacking the knight on f3. So this bishop is misplaced. I
absolutely agree with you, but Engine disagrees with both of us and says this is completely fine for black.
Really?
It's very playable.
So what is the best here actually in this position? D5 is the best move after queen c2?
Because if Nana allows e4, white gets really big space advantage. And it doesn't think that having bishop on b7 gives any... Oh, there we go. d5 is on the board.
Okay, so
because after bishop g7, e4, the 3 pawns in the center, it's just too much.
How many games after d5?
Yes.
Let's see. Just one. Then you were following the
h4
game. Yes.
Okay, but then let's analyze it a little bit deeper. So bishop g7, sorry. Let's wait for black to castle. And so what happened after h4? c5 immediately?
Right, black needs to play that, but Engine starts with knight d7.
Knight d7.
h5.
Okay, h5.
And here e5 or c5 are both playable. Engine prefers e5.
So e5. Okay, so so he wants to play f5 also at some point.
Yeah, white is slightly now behind in development, right, with the king on e1.
Yes, and the rook e1 is coming quickly, the pawn on e4. So,
but we can also maybe try something like bishop to c4.
Bishop c4, yes.
To try to pin that pawn on f7.
After e takes d, Engine says it's minus 1.4.
Yes,
wow.
Actually,
so you are too fast with rook e8 now? I mean, that f7 square?
No, just bishop takes e4 right away.
Bishop takes e4.
Okay, so bishop takes e4 and the queen... If it recaptures, then there is a skewer.
Yes. Oh, let's show it. Yes, just in case.
Yeah, it's a beautiful tactic.
I still get to play knight e5.
You can take
holding on.
Knight e5, right?
Yeah, and I don't have castle because that bishop on c4 is also hanging. And that's just over.
Yes, I've analyzed similar Grunfeld positions for white, and black's play is developing very, very fast. So I feel that you need to close the center after e5, but then somehow you get this square, knight c5. So what after d5, Nazi? What do you think? Because maybe then we can play 4 bishop a3 or h5.
Sorry, I switched to a different game, but let me think.
But did it happen in the only game we have in database, or black played c5?
Black didn't play e5, yeah.
Okay, so e5 is a completely new approach in this position. And what can we do here? Maybe we should wait a little bit.
I mean, h4 is not the only move, right, in the
course,
position. We can play more calmly and just finish development. But let's see what Alice is going to decide to play. And let's switch to the game of Bibisara, Assaubayeva and Zhongyi.
So Bibisara Assaubayeva is facing Zhongyi. Bibisara lost her game against Nana Dzagnidze yesterday. And Zhongyi started with only half a point with 2 white games. So that was a very upsetting start of the tournament, and probably she went for a Petrov.
Yeah, this is a Petrov defense, so let's just maybe walk quickly how we got where we are.
So it's one of the Petrov stabby, knight e4, d4, d5, bishop d3, bishop d6. Personally, I also like this move here. You know, it's a completely different structure, but it's a very interesting one just to show, you know, our viewers. And I think I just wanted to show one trick. Does it work here? Let's say something like this. Can you take on h7 here, Katerina? Remind me. Or it doesn't.
Takes. There's always after knight g5. There's queen takes h5,
yes.
g5, right?
There's somewhere this trick. Ah, it's with the bishop on e7. Okay, here it doesn't work. Yes, but it's an idea that you have in mind all the time. So. Let's after
c4, that's kind of the main line, how white attacks the center.
And queen b3. So attacking this pawn and attacking the pawn on b7, of course. So it's a double attack, but which is very common in this line. So queen d7 was played, protecting also the bishop on f5, because in some lines you can't take on c3 anymore because the queen is no longer on d1.
And actually black took.
Yes, but now you can take, because that's why white plays, you know, queen b3, so attacking both pawns, and you put your queen on a very awkward square. Right? But you always hope that white will play c takes cd, and you can play knight c6 in one move. Yes, so queen d7 protecting the bishop, and so now you can take on c3, and the bishop is no longer hanging. Bishop f5, queen f5. And
b takes c3.
B takes c3. Let's just show you that queen b7, I think, is a very dangerous move. So let me.
White goes instead of capturing the knight to try to get the rook.
Yes. So
how do we respond?
The thing is that it might be a trick where you can remain like maybe even like this, let's say, and queen d7 back. Nazi can confirm it with the computer because...
You're absolutely right, Almira. Yeah, that's the best line.
And the thing is, after pawn captures on d5, if we continue with that variation,
yes.
Pawn captures on d5.
Well, you wait a second. I'll have to remember my line. So c takes d5, because you can take on d5 and you cannot take.
But that's
d5.
the idea. Now the
yes.
queen cannot capture on d5 because we have actually a really strong discover attack.
So and then you're after knight c6, the queen.
So
is lost.
if we move back, let's just show that. And if you do not capture with the queen on d5, then black wants to play knight c6.
Yes, let's say you make a move in order to save your, I don't know, how can you save your queen? Okay, let's say you make your move, and after knight c6, the queen is lost.
Yeah.
So, you know, it all
so
comes
it's brave
back,
to go queen takes b7, but it's not promising. And let's take a look at head-to-head of these two players, because if you are wondering how many games they played, none. No previous matchups whatsoever in any type of chess control. So right now it's Bibisara who has 1 point and Zhongyi only half a point, and a very exciting game.
So b takes c3 was played, and Zhongyi is thinking. She's one of the experts in the Petrov defense, so she used it on many, many occasions. So here I'm actually wondering, Nazi, because I can't remember, I think d takes c4 is the move, but should she take it immediately here or not?
Actually, the best move here for black is b6.
b6, so
Yes, I believe because now if black takes on c4, now queen b7 does work for white.
And then if you play queen d7 back,
just rook b1, and rook is going to be very happy on the 7th rank if we play, let's say, queen b7, rook takes, and it's hard to finish development for black, right? We want to play knight d7, but that's not available. You don't want to develop knight on a6. So engine goes rook d8 just to be able to move knight d7 on the next move. But now we can just
knight g2.
Yeah, go and take that pawn on c4, the double pawns. Both are weak pawns. So instead of d takes c, black's supposed to play b6 here. We're still in theory, there's 27 games still in this position. Then white takes on d5 and goes, oh, okay, I thought there would be bishop a3 move. But maybe that trades off too many pieces. So if you still want to have some pieces left on the board, you can play queen b5, queen d7, and a4. Do we think white actually has some advantage in this endgame after takes? Of course, we have a very nice a-file, and pawn on a7 is a backward pawn, but is this enough to actually turn it into a full point?
No, well.
I'm not sure, but my idea, Nazi, is why do we want to be trading queens when we have isolated pawns? Can I just go knight d7, or am I going to lose some material?
You mean for black here?
For black, yes. Knight d7, I don't want to trade queens.
Why is this winning immediately? Queen c6. Is the bishop trapped?
The rook is trapped on a8.
Yeah, because the bishop has only one square on b8, and then we win.
Wow.
This is such a beautiful trap.
To lose a piece like this, it can happen so easily because you just don't expect it. So just to show, if you go anywhere, then queen is overloaded and can't defend both pieces, and white just wins one of them. This is incredible.
So queen b5 is really stopping black from finishing development.
Very tricky move.
But the thing is, black always wants to trade queens here.
Right, because the c3 pawn is also a weakness, and that's how we can take advantage of that c file, maybe with the rook going and attacking that pawn.
But can we try something else with white?
Sure. Instead of queen b5? But before we do that, let's go and check in with Yasser.
Thank you very much. I was going to say that for the start of round 3, enjoying the diversity of the openings that the ladies have chosen. We live in a day and age where my colleagues are becoming coaches, trainers for the young prodigies like Alice Lee and Bibi. And as coaches, we love our principles. And I'm looking at the game of Harika and Mariya, and I'm just thinking to myself, coaches must be going crazy right now, as our opening principles that we instill in our young prodigies, we say, focus on the center in the opening, develop your pieces on effective squares. Make sure all of your pieces are in harmony with one another. And we give these principles and we pat ourselves on the back. Really, really good job. So here we have an incredibly strong grandmaster, Harika, playing the move a2, a4. And I cringed when this move was played, like I almost fell out of my seat. And then I was listening to Nasi saying, yes, there are 200 games played like this. And Magnus Carlsen has played it in a number of times in his blitz game, and my head's exploding. And then, of course, on the next move. So a2, a4 is one of those moves that has a complete violation of our principles. In the opening, the center, focus on the center. a2, a4 is not the center. Now, violation number 2 on the very next move, bishop to d3. So again, we're very, very happy to tell our students, don't put your bishop on d3. Don't put your bishop in front of the pawn, because the pawn on d2 needs to move so that the bishop on c1 can have a view of the game. And when you put your bishop on d3, it's not in harmony with the pieces. I couldn't believe it. I looked it up on the openings, and this is like the main line. And I'm sitting there saying to myself, I can imagine a parent coming to me and saying, you know, my young child loves to play chess. Could you teach them something? And the child comes to me and says, I was white and I played like this. And I would be sitting there trying to educate the child and say, no, you can't play like this. And here, Harika, top grandmaster, violating all of our rules. I don't know what I'm going to do with myself. Back to you in studio.
Thank you, Yasser. You sounded actually like my teacher back in the days in the Soviet Union. So, you know, you've been scolded. And for the moves like a4 and bishop d3, you could actually be excluded, you know, from the chess sections. And I understand you completely. But the computers, you know, has showed us that, you know, chess can be played in so many different ways. And all our principles, which were instilled back in the days, and dogmas, you know, can be questioned. What do you think, Katerina?
I'm not a big fan of playing these moves, like playing bishop d3. I would really try to avoid it, but yeah, that's the modern way of playing, just trying to play differently, unexpectedly for your opponent, and it's backed up by the engine, so
of
I
course.
guess why not if you study it well enough.
And you can also see that a5 was played, so somehow they entered this very strange variation, like I would say, enigmatic variation of 4 knights, where white didn't play bishop b5, like I said, with the reverse colors, but played bishop d3 as black supposed to play. Now you have the move knight d5 on the board.
And I see in the future white maybe playing something like this, right? Hiding the bishop back and trying to kind of fight still for the center. But let's take a look at the head-to-head of these two players. We have Grandmaster Harika Dronavalli playing Grandmaster Mariya Muzychuk, and it's only 1 win for Harika, 0 losses and 13 draws. So it's a very balanced match between these two, but maybe Mariya remembers that one loss and will want to get back in this game.
So just to finish talking about this game, so knight d5 was placed, but that actually explains the move bishop d3. It is not just supported by the computer, it's the idea that after playing bishop d3 protecting the e4 pawn, you want to play knight d5. And then black played a5 protecting the bishop and not moving it at all. But you also understand that sometimes if the bishop moves, you can play c3, b4 and a5, and that's how you make the use of your a4 push.
Right, so you kind of trapping the bishop.
That's why you need, let's say I'm playing h6 here. So after c3, that's the deep idea behind the move a4. You are losing your bishop. Yeah, it's a very interesting possibility, and I'm pretty sure that during the blitz game, you know,
it's easy to miss.
It's easy to miss.
You are just thinking white is playing on the queen side, let's ignore it, and then you forget that maybe your bishop can get trapped.
Okay.
And Nazi, what is the news from you?
Well, I want to draw your attention to another game that's between Humpy, Koneru and Alina Kashlinskaya. Alina is doing very well in this event. She started with 1.5, defeating Zhongyi already. So Humpy chose knight f3, started as the Réti opening, bishop g2, c5, castles, knight c6, and here white has this option to play d3 and allow e5, which is King's Indian reverse colors. But Humpy played d4, c takes. Actually, here, I've played this many times before with both colors. I'm used to seeing e6 more, playing c4, and then this is a main position. There's more than 4,000 games and a lot of theoretical discussions in this position. But we saw Humpy take on d4. Alina took on d4 and played d5, and this is a long line that I analyzed maybe 10 years ago, so I have no memory of it at all. Queen a4, queen d7, knight c3, and they're following this forcing line. Black usually here goes rook c8. Everything gets traded.
This is Grunfeld reversed, where you take king d2, but here
yes,
you take
exactly.
king d7.
And rook d1, and we're in this end game with a lot of minor pieces on the board, with black's king in the center, but very nice central pawns, but also d5 pawn is the target. What do you think in this position? Would you prefer to be white or black?
It's interesting because normally you are playing this position with white, so up.
Tempo up, yes.
Yes, and I think that black has to be careful here. So I would think that white is slightly better because of this extra tempo.
Absolutely. Yeah, white is slightly better, and black has to be careful. You have to make accurate moves. So d5 is already attacked, right? Best move here is bishop c5. And if you take, let's see what happens. Takes, right? We lose a pawn, but play king e6. You have to drop with the rook back. Can we play e4, or there's a downside to e4? I guess after rook d8, you still have to make tough decisions. So white's about 2 tempi behind, right? If this bishop was on c3, great, we play rook d1, we win the game. But looks like this pawn sacrifice is very good for black. After king e6, if we drop down, let's say with the rook, black still goes rook d8, and according to the engine, black has enough compensation for that pawn to call this an equality.
But I think we shouldn't take the pawn.
Not take,
in d5.
right? Yes, absolutely.
I was thinking about another option.
Where is bishop c5? There we go.
Can we play here knight a4? Because bishop
Very nice.
c5, you know, is very unstable there. So
Yeah, I have to go back.
Because if you play bishop d4, I have this e3. You know, I haven't played d4, so bishop g5.
Very nice. Playing with the initiative. Rook c4, provoking b3,
b3,
right?
Rook c2, just
now
going to the
going
second
to-
rank whenever possible.
And so, can I take the pawn now? That's because you're left with the bishop on d6, which is a bit different. So can I take on f6?
f6 and then on
Yes,
d5, right?
That's my idea.
Yes, you can. And
What can you do here?
engine Sival is white is up half a pawn after king e7 or f5. So compensation is, of course, the bishop pair, active rook on c2, and white's knight on a4 is currently out of play. But long term, I mean, we would still take an extra pawn, right?
Yes,
Of
I
course.
think maybe this is the better version because the other one simplifies it completely. So the
Yes.
king on e6 is very powerful, the king on g1, so you
Here we keep more pieces on
of
the board,
course,
have more
pieces
chances,
on the board,
absolutely.
and who knows, like if I take bishop b6 here, what do you do?
Bishop e6?
Or I shouldn't take this bishop.
I guess engine doesn't like the trade this bishop against that knight. And
No.
of course, helping the black's
But the
king,
players
right?
were maybe heading that direction.
Oh yes, there's been a lot of moves made. Let's see. Yep, they're right here, rook d1. And if black doesn't play bishop c5 and all these accurate moves,
Then you can take the pawn.
Yeah, you can just take the
have
pawn,
to
right?
develop
You know,
your
one thing that would make me uncomfortable as black is I see Humpy Koneru having 1 hour 28 minutes on her clock. So she's definitely in her preparation. She knows what she's doing, and that is always uncomfortable.
And do you remember her move bishop b2 against Nana Dzagnidze?
yes.
So I'm wondering if she has prepared something in this line as well. But I definitely think that you have to go knight a4 and then try
Bishop
to take
c5 played
with
already?
the bishop on d5.
Alina is clearly also familiar with the opening. Maybe she was surprised because the move order, right? It started with knight f3. It can develop into any opening. So she took her time and seems like she's aware of this line. And after knight a4, maybe there's a better way to continue here for black. Bishop e7.
So, bishop b7 is
Yeah,
also,
just to not give you that pawn and double up my pawns. You
but
can
I will still play bishop g5.
And here I was thinking d4. Oh, you see, you can still win
E3?
the pawn.
Yeah.
Yeah, e3 still wins the pawn. h6.
Take on f6 or not?
Actually, you can take
in
on
d4.
d4. You can take on d4.
Because we have some discarded attacks.
Yes, but black does have still very beautiful two bishops, right? However, you can force to trade one now. And now king is not so happy after coming out in the center and then going back. Not so happy.
And now look at our knight on a4. It is protecting the pawn on b2. You know.
Doing a good job, yeah.
Yes, sir. This is your position.
And let's
Thank
take a
you,
look at the head-to-head of these players, how they score in the matchup. So Humpy Koneru has 7 wins, 1 loss, and 2 draws against Alina Kashlinskaya. So for sure she is the favorite in this game. Wow, how must that feel for Alina to be playing somebody who is so uncomfortable to you?
Yes, maybe 7 wins is not enough to call Humpy Alina's nemesis, but it is a very difficult opponent indeed, especially with the black pieces.
And right now both players are in the second place, so they started off the tournament pretty well, winning and then making a draw. And now it's time to look at Ben Underwood's pie charts. He was the bell ringer for this round, the statistician of the St. Louis Chess Club. So this is the pre-tournament chances to win the tournament. We see Humpy Koneru 22.2%, Zhongyi 18.9%, and Assaubayeva Bibisara 12%. But one thing I want to emphasize is look at the last player, Alice Lee, 2.3% chances to win the tournament. But everything is going to change after the first round. You can see Alice is heading up and Humpy Koneru is increasing her chances. So after round 1, when we had 5 winners, Humpy Koneru 35.2%, Bibisara Assaubayeva 21.1%, and Harika Dronavalli 15.2%, and Alice Lee 4.7%. So despite winning a game and Zhongyi losing her first game, they had the same chances of winning the tournament. But now after yesterday, after round 2, you can see Alice Lee is going to the second spot. Koneru Humpy 31.6% chances, but now it's Alice Lee with 18.6% chances to win the tournament, and Harika Dronavalli in the third place, 15.9% chances.
Katerina, I like those numbers better, but as I can see, my tournament pick, is still on the top of the charts.
Mine's catching up.
Yes, yours is catching up. We should have a bet, So Nazi, if I'm winning, you're dancing in the studio, So.
Oh no, I'm not taking that bet. As much as I believe in Alice Lee, I'm still not taking that bet.
And we see all players focused on their games in the World Chess Hall of Fame.
One game I think we haven't looked at yet is Carissa against Nino Batsiashvili.
Yes, of course, we haven't covered all the games.
So let's jump to that game.
So let's start at the very beginning.
Oh, Bishop Opening, we had that yesterday, right?
But Carissa started her tournament with 2 blacks. So finally she gets to the white pieces and she uses the Bishop Opening, which is characterized by this second move. Bishop c4. Yes, it's not in Italian because it allows you sometimes not to play knight f3, but to play knight c3 and f4. Let's say, just what can we try here? Knight c6, maybe that was the game, and then
knight f6,
yes,
let's say bishop
f6,
c5.
Bishop c5, maybe we can stay something like this. Yes.
But we are just delaying the development of the knight on the king side,
yes,
so we can push f4.
And knight g4 is not possible, of course, so here you can try this line. However, in the game we have bishop c4, knight f6. I think it's one of the most principal replies because it forces you to protect the pawn, of course, on e4. And you have to play d3, bishop c5, knight f3, so they're transposing to the Italian game. But with the knight is on b8, not on c6 yet. So knight c6 was played and knight c3. So it's a very interesting opening concept. So in the Italian game, I think we've tried everything. I'm not sure, even a4, by analogy was tried. But very often we would play c3 and d4. Yes, so knight c3 is a recent development of the theory in this line, because you don't want to allow black to play the early d5, and at the same time you will play a3, stabilize this bishop, of course.
Being able to retreat with the bishop to a2 once it's attacked.
And what is the idea of knight c3? Sometimes if black allows you, you will play knight a4 and grab the bishop, and you will play with the bishop pair. So let's see what happened in this game. d6, oh, she went for knight a4 immediately, okay, so just bishop b6, knight b6, a b6, and c3 now. So both players think that their position is very solid. I think Carissa might have a small advantage here with white pieces because she has the pair bishop. h6 was played. She didn't want to allow bishop g5 here. And sometimes you can even play g5 yourself, with white castles. Let's see, it might be possible. So castle, she wants to castle Nino, so she's playing very solidly this opening. Rook e1, rook e8, and bishop d2. It's a very interesting move. Puzzles me completely because I'm aware of this idea. When the pawns are not doubled, then you start playing b4, a4.
Right, because Carissa may be looking on the queen side to start pushing the pawns there.
But bishop d2 here, Nazi, you have to help us. It's a very peculiar looking move.
There's no games in the database. This is already a new position.
Oh, so you know,
I've been following.
You helped me, yes.
And here I was considering for black, simple move like bishop e6 makes a lot of sense. Just trade that very good bishop on c4. There's also ideas to create some kind of chaos on the board immediately and start with d5, which Carissa's playing with white. For a second, I thought she was with black. I was like, she's going to go for this.
She had already 2 blacks. Finally, she's enjoying white pieces, and she needs to get back to the tournament.
But
and both of these players are tied for 7th place, so they both are looking for a win.
Nazi, I'm trying to understand her opening concept, because if this is her preparation, so we should find a line where the move bishop d2 is useful. You know, so what is she looking at? Because here, let's say you take on d5.
Right, let's see.
Yes, knight d5. Why the move bishop d2 is useful?
She can play b4 here.
And you're protecting the pawn on c3. Okay, so maybe this is her idea.
Yeah, she wants to play queen on b3. It's going to be a very cozy setup here after queen b3, rook d1. Engine says white doesn't actually have an advantage, but sometimes, you know, it's totally fine to get an equal position where you feel just comfortable and you know what to do next. Your position, your pieces make sense to you.
I just have a question. So b5 is a threat or not yet?
I don't, because of e5, honestly.
I wanted to
let's see if black plays bishop f5, right? Can we play b5? Engine says queen b3, so let's see why not this after knight a5. Would you take, the d3 is hanging, right, at the end, or not?
No, because like if we're taking on e5, yes, what do you do here?
Oh, you're taking with the pawn?
Yes, well, I have to.
You have to. Knight f6, and black has compensation for that pawn.
So the computer evaluates this position as a slightly better for black. It's very interesting.
Yes, maybe Yasser has more thoughts about this game. Over to you.
Thank you. In fact, I don't have further thoughts. I thought the move bishop to d2 was just kind of a soft move. Basically what you were saying there, Nasi, to play b4, queen b3, just complete development. White has the 2 bishops. Carissa doesn't have too much out of the opening. She's looking for a big fight. I'm invested. I'm invested in the game between Harika and Mariya. This is the bishop d3 game, and I wanted to see how it was going to unfold. d7, d6, knight d5, a5, c2, c3, bishop c5, and again, as a coach, we scold our students by saying, you see, you put your bishop on d3, you will have to move the bishop in the near future so that this bishop on c1 can be developed. So you play bishop c2. Now it's very clear what is going on here. White has a sole idea of d2, d4. Mariya has started 0-2. She's a little bit nervous, very, very unsettled. Nobody likes to lose a game. Losing 2 games really can shake your confidence. We'll check this out. She just made a move, but she spent a half an hour getting to this position where she played knight takes d5, by far the best move. Again, white wants to play d2, d4, and bishop g5, completing development, and that's really clear. We'll look at the best move, what Mariya played after a 25-minute think, knight takes d5, and there's a trap in the position that is really nice, and it's worth knowing. We understand white wants to play d2, d4. So let's stop it. Let's play the move bishop g4, pinning the knight to the queen, so that the move d4 we can capture, and the knight on f3 will not be protecting the pawn on d4. Well, the trap would go h2, h3, bishop h5. This is a very, very bad move. Knight takes d4, queen takes d4, g4, bishop g6, d4. And suddenly you're losing a piece. Oops. If we capture on d4, we first play the move bishop g5. Queen doesn't have many squares. Queen e6 takes, with the idea of forking either the queen or the knight, or capturing the bishop. Now, in the game position, after knight takes d5, e takes d5, knight e7, I was very curious to see what the engine thought about the position. Actually, the engine thinks black is a tiny bit better. For example, the move d4, what we always wanted to do, takes a big crossroads. How do we want to capture on d4? Do we really want to recapture with the pawn, giving ourselves a permanent weakness on d5? For example, bishop b5 or bishop b6. Do we really want this, or do we want to recapture with the knight? Knight takes. Now, the material can be restored after bishop takes, queen h5, material equality, but the engine actually likes black's position, 2 bishops. So again, I'm thinking Harika might be looking at ideas of simply sacrificing a pawn. Queen h5, knight f6, queen h4, very speculative stuff, but I'm keeping my eye on this one. Back to you in studio.
Thank you, Yasser, for the analysis. I'm also curious to see if she's going to go for a pawn sacrifice or that little awkward pawn structure. What do you think, Almira?
I was actually calculating the lines with bishop h7 immediately. They do not work immediately.
Greek gift sacrifice.
Exactly, but the only possibility is already exciting.
So let's take a look at it, at the board.
Let's have a look. So, knight e7, d4. He takes d4. For the moment, I don't think that it's working, because after
Here,
knight g5, you will have to play...
Okay, the idea is if king g8.
King g8, yes, of course.
We would love to go queen h5 and checkmate
but
on
then
h7.
You have bishop f5, so that's...
And it's guarding that h7 square.
So it doesn't work immediately, I suspect.
But it's always you want to be looking that direction
Of
when you have
course.
bishop, knight, and queen looking that way and having this opportunity.
So this opportunity is always in there. So how can we make it work? And that's why the knight on e7 is such a beautiful piece, because bishop f5 can be played at any moment. So knight g5, but can I play knight g5 here immediately? Let's...
So if you go knight g5 right now, targeting that pawn on h7,
So
I have 2 options. I can play h6, I can play g6, I can play bishop f5.
Yes, so which option can we choose here? I actually wanted to provoke this move, so at some point I will be able to sacrifice on h6. Who knows? Knight e4, I have this idea. What do you think, Katerina?
So what if now I capture the pawn on d5?
So how can I make this work? Taken on c5, queen d3 doesn't work yet, because you will play knight f6. Okay, what other sacrifices possible? I was like, somehow after working for 2 days with you, I want to sacrifice all my pieces.
Go for it. I mean,
try.
remember, we can always reset.
Let's
we are not
try.
playing the games.
Yes, and queen h5. How can you defend this position?
So I would love to play queen g5, but unfortunately, I don't have this queen
Nazi,
g5.
help me. Am I winning here?
Well, let's see.
I'm trying to help you without the engine, and I don't have anything for you because I have another game on my screen.
Okay, so queen h5.
So maybe I just...
So what's wrong with... Okay.
The thing is, the knight is also attacked. So
if you just go knight f6, what's happening?
Knight f6. I wanted simply to take queen h6.
Okay, I take...
So let's go knight f6.
Knight f6. Well, at least that was
Queen
my
captures.
variation, the only variation that I have. So what do you do here?
Yeah, I see your idea now. If I take and play f5, you have bishop d5,
Yes.
right?
So
No, that's just
It's a
lost.
very romantic sacrifice. I'm not sure it works at all, but at the first sight, you don't have a defense here.
And of course, we don't have anything like rook e8 because there is always this bishop kind of h7, g7, g6.
Question is,
checkmate.
how did you get to this position?
I just started. I launched an attack by bishop h6 and play. So here, that was my idea. I wanted to play knight g5, and if you don't play bishop f5, because I thought that was the best move, but still, I'm not sure at all. So here, h6, I went. So knight g5, sorry, this was not the first. So knight g5 here, h6, knight e4.
I see, and then you took on h6.
Yes, in the spirit of the positions. So should you, and if you play f5 here?
We can
That's
also
what I'm
start with
thinking.
bishop f5.
But f5 immediately with the pawn. We do have knight g5 on the board,
We do
but
have
without
Wow.
d4. There's no
so
d4
without.
included.
So maybe this is the right idea, but not the right execution. Yes, so maybe knight g5 without d4. Somehow it seems that we need to open this bishop.
I can quickly check with the engine
Yes,
and
let's
see what
have
it
a look.
says.
What does it say after d4?
Let's check your line first. So after d4 takes knight g5.
So maybe bishop f5
Bishop
is the best
f5
move?
is good, so I guess h6 is just not a good move. But because of c takes d4, it says. Let's see. Yeah, here looks like both bishop f5 is very good. Just bishop f5 is enough. We're looking at knight d5, right? This loses probably. No? Even
No?
this doesn't lose. Let's check. Bishop takes h6.
Yes, so how do we defend?
G
Pawn
takes
takes.
h, queen
Queen
h5.
h5.
Well, it says only -1, so it's not too bad. I think at some point black might just give the material back.
So
which
after
is right
rook
now.
e8, we allow white
Yeah.
to capture the knight. Oh, because we have that knight extra.
Just gives the material back, yeah.
And we have a pair of bishops.
Rook e8, queen takes d5, and just rook e5 to kick your queen out of the king side. But let's see, so after knight g5 now, again, bishop f5 is the best move. h6 seems okay as well, but it could transpose now, right, after d4.
The thing is, you also have this idea, and I remember from some lines, you can play knight h7, knight f6 sacrifice, and that's how you destroy the pawn
So
structure.
for example, if I
Can
move
we
here,
do something
knight
like this?
h7, rook e8, very nice. Takes and queen h5.
Yes.
It's giving triple zeros,
No.
though. That's the
Wow,
surprising
so
part.
There has to be just perpetual check.
We have to play h3 here to not be worse. Prophylaxis, very important.
Not allowing the queen to go to g4.
And here can take on
So they
g6
go
or
for
h6.
perpetual here.
I
yes,
think so,
lots.
right? Because queen can't cover right now. King has to go here, only move. I don't think white has to go for perpetual. It can just develop. And
And
black has to still be careful, right? Rook g8, only move. Takes, takes. How many pawns do we have now? Now we
Probably
can
now
take.
you have to go queen h4 and queen f6 back.
Now you finally do the perpetual. That was very, very cool pattern of knight h7 and knight f6. Thank you for showing that.
Yes, because a lot of the ideas are similar to the positions where you sacrifice sometimes your knight on g5, you know, with the bishop on
Yes.
h4, the bishop on b6. So black is playing without the two bishops and without the rook. So you're trying to launch an attack and to use the momentum. But knight h7, knight f6, yes,
Very beautiful, yeah.
is a very lovely idea, but it's very thematical here. So
I also want
let's
to
see.
give you an update in Humpy's game against Alina. That was the game I had on before. We left it here after knight a4. And we were looking at bishop d6 or bishop e7 just so that black doesn't allow that knight to be traded for the bishop. But Alina chose something completely different. She just went for h6, stopping bishop g5. She wants to keep this pawn alive on d5, which makes a lot of sense. After the trade, however, and Humpy is still playing very quickly. She plays f4 here. Very aggressive. e4, best move. Bishop e3 followed. Rook c2. No more moves, but I'm expecting Humpy to just take the pawn on a7. And white can give up both e2 and b2 pawns and just start launching this pawn. Well, if you take on b2, I might have bishop d4, right? Yes. Bishop d4.
Because then you take the knight and you take on e4, or maybe
Yeah.
you're just still marching with that a pawn forward.
You have to play rook before just to defend this pawn, and here just a5. And then we have two bishops. We're down a pawn, but it's +1.
what
very
puzzles
interesting.
me that not only you are marching towards the a8 square, but black has no counterplay whatsoever.
None whatsoever. Yes, very passive pieces, especially the bishop, even the knight. And this rook looks active, but it doesn't really do any damage.
What you're supposed to do here, once again using the analogy, you have to play bishop g4, bishop f3.
Right now, bishop g4
No, I mean
or...
sometimes you you
Okay,
need
so
to
after
play
bishop a7, maybe bishop g4 is the best move to activate your pieces,
Oh, maybe
right?
to
And
capture on e2 and then go bishop d3 also? To just stop
Maybe.
that rook being active on the d file.
Yeah, bishop on e2 is unpleasant for sure. So here, engine says best move is rook c1. And
Can we double the rooks? Just rook
You can
f
double,
c8?
or you can take on b2. Yasser would not think about that twice. Will definitely take. Now we trade and I go a4 again. So I'm happy that I got rid of the rook on d1 because it was always under tempo. You can still take, and look at this. Bishop is back now for defense. Although I can trade it, but if I do that, then your knight also becomes very active. And suddenly, I mean, I'm afraid of these 2 pawns in the center.
Maybe it's just a draw where you play
Of
knight
course.
h2, knight f3, yes, and it's a perpetual.
We know chess is a draw if perfectly played from both sides, yes. It's so dangerous though. I mean, white's 3 moves away from promoting and you can't really stop it. But yes, we know that knight and the rook can do perpetual against the lone king.
Somehow the meaning of life, you know, if I paraphrase a super powerful computer, it's triple zeros. Yes? Before
Yes.
the answer was 42, but I suspect that now it's triple zeros.
And let's take a look at the standings, because we have only one leader, as we talk about the whole time now, Alice Lee winning 2 games, but we have a 3-way tie for the second place. Humpy, Koneru, Harika, Dronavalli and Alina, Kashlinskaya, who all won the first round and made the draw in the second round. Now maybe again we can check in, is Alice Lee, what continued there? Because she had those options of going for h4, did she go for it or not?
Yes, we have to continue with this game. So knight c3, bishop g7, bishop c4. Okay, I like this move. And then she decided
Knight
to
e2.
develop her knight on e2. Of course, it's a very interesting way.
Oh,
to
and that's
develop.
it, no more moves. So players are really taking their time. I see Alice Lee 1 hour 8 minutes, Nana only, 1 hour 5 minutes, which just means they're moving really slow. It's like move 9, right, or something.
Katerina, just to summarize this opening, knight e2 allows a very interesting way to counter the double fianchetto. As you can see, the bishop on g7, you know, is not really working for the moment, because you have this d4 pawn and c3 pawn, yes, blocking it. So knight
Small
e2,
pawn chain.
Yes, small pawn chain. But knight e2 allows to block the bishop on b7 in the same way. So I could play f3, you know, and your bishops are not that powerful anymore. So you can have this in mind as well. So for the moment, after knight e2, Nana is thinking, should we leave this game at this moment? What do you think,
Yeah.
Katerina? Yes.
Maybe we're gonna take a short break, so let's check in with our friends at Q Boutique and get ready for the 2025 Cairns Cup with this iconic souvenir shirt. It features the Cairns Cup logo on the front and the St. Louis Chess Club on the back of the neck. Available at qboutiquestl.com and in person at the St. Louis Chess Club. And Almira, as we go to break, Yasser asked the player what advice they would give to the up-and-coming chess stars. So let's take a look.
What advice would you give to young ladies who want to become chess professionals?
Well, I think that I would, of course, recommend to enjoy the game and maybe to follow example of young generation of men who does not respect the oldest, just beat them. So you can try to do the same with us.
So, especially speaking about here, USA, I think with St. Louis doing such amazing, for chess, I think the girls should really. I saw the last year they even announced a prize for women becoming grandmasters.
Yes.
So that's very. I mean, if I would get chance, I would go back and get the title again. That's very encouraging, and I think they should really, use these conditions. Not waste their time, really work hard. If they're passionate about it, they just have to give all that they can. We have come from the era where we didn't play with too good conditions, or it got better and better. So we know the value of it, and all I would suggest is just don't waste your time. Use all the resources you have and have higher goals.
I think it's important to continue play and improve your skill, whatever happened in your life. And also after lost the games. It's, I think, the heartbreaking for all chess players. I remember a few times when I feel very bad, but you still should keep going. I played in Grenke freestyle in March or April, I don't remember. And I played in the second round against Fabiano. And I have winning position, and then I lost the game in one move. It was stupid decision from myself. And after this game, I wanna just, I don't know, leave the tournament and just forget about this. But I keep playing and playing well. And in the end, I take 6 out of 9. I also have winning position against Lee Kuan Lim, and I share the place with Nepomniachtchi or some other players. I was super happy.
Very, very nice. I was in Norway. There's a young boy at a press conference of Magnus Carlsen. The young boy said to Magnus, when did you stop crying after a lost game? And Magnus looked at the young boy and said, what makes you think I stopped crying?
Yeah, it's absolutely true. Absolutely.
I can advise only one thing: to work a lot in chess and their psychology, and do all. If they love chess, they should do everything to become great player.
Yeah, I think my advice in general, I guess, to any player would just to really love the game, because there's not really much you can do like if you don't. But I think there's a lot of beauty that can be found in chess. It's like kind of artistic, and if you continue to work on it, love the game, will improve quite quickly.
Get as much practice as possible, following the games of sharks like like Magnus, Fabiano, and so on, and analyze their games. And just be patient. This is also very important.
Yeah, chess is a very male-dominated sport, and there are like many different implications of that for being a woman in chess. And sometimes it can be like difficult to continue, but I think it's kind of important to remember that you're there for the love of the game, that there is like a lot of support for, you know, promising young girls. And I think that support will definitely continue throughout the years.
First of all, it's necessary to love the game, because, you know, if not, if they do it because of mother, father, someone else, it won't be good for their mental health.
Right.
So, and if they love the game, I think it's necessary to practice chess a lot.
When they are young, it's very important to compete with men. So probably that will help them to improve their game and also to be more competitive. Of course, like any other sports, you always need to work hard, and you should always think positive. And of course, failure is quite common for everyone, irrespective of their strength. But you have to learn from it and try to improve.
"10 years, one legacy." The Grand Chess Tour marks a decade of mastery where only the strongest chess minds carve their names into history. Each piece has its role, like soldiers in a grand army, with commanders to lead them into the tour's 10th year and a prize fund of $1.6 million. The Grand Chess Tour starts in Warsaw with the Superbet Rapid and Blitz Poland, immediately followed by the Superbet Chess Classic Romania in Bucharest. Then off to Zagreb for the Super United Rapid and Blitz Croatia, followed by back-to-back events in St. Louis, Missouri with the St. Louis Rapid and Blitz and the Sinkfield Cup. And the culmination of the grand finale in the city of Sao Paulo, Brazil, will determine the 2025 Grand Chess Tour champion. Fight with every ounce of strength for victory. This isn't just a moment. This is history.
National titles are up for grabs as rising stars and chess legends converge in the chess capital of America, St. Louis, Missouri, for the 2025 U.S. Senior, Junior, and Girls Championships. Beginning July 15th, 30 elite players across 3 fields will compete for a total prize fund of $225,000. 2024 U.S. Senior Champion Vladimir Akopian returns to defend his title, while returning junior players, International Master Justin Wang and Grandmaster Brewington Hardaway and Abhimanyu Mishra will be fighting for first place. In the Junior Girls Championship, top seed Zoe Tang chases her first national title in what promises to be a wide-open field. Young stars and seasoned vets are ready to leave it all on the board. Catch all the action on the St. Louis Chess Club YouTube and Twitch channels.
Corporate Chess League started in 2018, and we started it because we wanted to get the corporations around St. Louis to get together, casually play chess, and network together. So each corporation has their own team. They bring 4 to 6 people every week, and they play over the board in-person chess.
In our team, for all of us to be here, we don't see each other throughout our week. We work in different departments in different areas. So yeah, I think it's a good thing to hang out with your other peers at the club.
So what myself and my coworkers get out of playing in the Corporate Chess League is camaraderie, getting to hang out with people from work, from different departments, getting to meet people from other companies, learn what they do, and obviously just enjoy the game of chess that we all love.
We have about 10 teams right now. We average 10 to 12 teams every year. So if your corporation is interested, or if you work for a corporation and you're trying to get a team, all you need to do is go to our website, stlouischessclub.org, and all the information is there.
Welcome back everyone to round 3 of the Cairns Cup, and before we look at the game, let's check the standings after round 2. Alice Lee is the sole leader. She managed to win the first game and the second game, and she has 2 points. But then there is a 3-way tie for the second place. Humpy, Koneru, Harika, Dronavalli, and Alina, Kashlinskaya with 1.5 points. As you can see, it is only Mariya Muzychuk so far who is struggling in this tournament, having 0 points. Almira, what is the game you want to look at right now?
Well, we haven't had too many moves in the game between our tournament leader Carissa, Alice Lee and Nana Dzagnidze. I think e6 was played by Nana. Let's have a look at this position. The game was developing very slowly. So 30 minutes spent by both players. They still have more than 1 hour on their clock. So I can understand Nana's decision to play e6 and to block this bishop on c4. Mm-hmm. So should Alice play f4 here? I like so this move, you know. Yes, play f4 and to grab even more space.
We've turned Almira from positional to a very aggressive player. f4. Nice.
I thought maybe, I mean, f4 looks nice. You maybe even think about pushing the pawn further, right? f5. But what if I'm just very calm? Bishop e3. Just I develop.
Yes, because I remember one classical game where with the same structure, what I wanted to say. So if you play f4, maybe knight a5 is the perfect reply here. So you play knight a5, let's say the bishop will go to a2, and maybe you can play c5 here. What do you think, Nazi? Does it make sense?
Absolute perfect play for black in this position. And here you can continue with f5 since you're committed to this aggressive play. And it's quite interesting, actually. I thought at first, I mean, f4 catches my eye. I love gaining space and taking unnecessary risks even. But here, it's not that risky. After knight a5, which is the absolute best move, c5, and we play f5, let's take a look. So after c takes d, we're sacrificing a pawn, taken with a knight. I guess black doesn't want to take bishop d4 and give up that dark squared bishop, so best move here is
But wait, isn't that a fork afterwards?
You want to take on a1? Good question. Let's check. I guess I played
probably
queen
gonna
f2.
Lose the queen, or
okay, let's check what's on queen a1. This is not clear at all. F takes e is the winning move. It's not obvious. So I'm threatening to take on bishop e2. And can we play f6 or something?
But then e7.
This is nice.
Wow.
Okay, this is completely winning. Yeah, this is not obvious at all. But after queen f2, you can, of course, trade the queens. And why is white still better here, even though we're down a pawn? So e6 is still hanging.
The dark squares are extremely weak in the position, right? The
Those two
bishop on
bishops.
b2 is going to be a monster.
Absolutely. Even though you can take on e4, I'll take on e6, and then, yeah, black king is actually kind of weak because of these bishops.
And the thing is that you want to play bishop c4 here, and it's impossible. You know, you have to play bishop
Yeah,
a6,
you would
bishop
love
c4,
to trade
yes.
that as soon as possible, but you can't.
There are too many threats, of course. So, but
Right.
f4, so it is a like
It is playable,
a valid
absolutely.
move, yes.
And here maybe black should play something like rook c8 to threaten bishop takes d4. White still goes queen f2, e takes f, e takes f. And as you can see, only move here for black to not be much worse is queen f6. Also not obvious. I mean, I guess we have to stop f6 from happening. Bishop d2 and the game goes on. Very sharp position, I would say.
But it also looks risky for white, right? You always have to be careful about the rook maybe capturing the pawn on c3, suddenly knight on d4 hanging. Like white has to be also calculating very precisely.
Yes, we messed up our structure completely and committed to these weak pawns a3 and c3, but we're playing for the initiative and hope that our good minor pieces, which is bishop, knight, and even this bishop, will compensate for that. And according to the engine, it's about equal.
And let's try Katerina's move, maybe bishop b3 instead of f4. Prepare.
Okay, in which way?
So here, you said
Here.
bishop b3, maybe knight a5 still.
Yeah, black will probably still play for c5. Should we go to d3 here or still a2?
I like d3, maybe not allow the dark square bishop to go to a6 at some moment.
Okay, let's say I play queen e7. The question is, if you eventually don't play f4, how do you improve your position?
I want to go
right?
f4 now. Let's go f4.
Okay,
I
time
feel
for
my
it.
pieces are better prepared now to launch an attack.
I was thinking about e5 as well.
Still c5?
Just to...
Okay, f5, let's go. Oh no, you're going to trap my bishop.
No.
Nazi, can we try e5?
Instead of f4?
Yes, because I wanted to have the square for the knight. The knight on e2 is out of place, so
you want knight g3,
knight
knight
g3.
d4.
I
Very
want
nice.
to reroute my knight.
You can try, let's say, rook d8. You could also, do you want to trade the bishops? Depends. You could play bishop e4.
Yes, bishop b4 is a
Or
nice
knight
move,
d4.
but knight d4. Let's
Right,
try
say
first.
takes, rook c8. It's unpleasant that black managed to develop both rooks and we still haven't done that. And if you move the queen, you have to watch out for knight b3, right?
No, here I feel that black is okay.
Yeah, Almira, I was a
Yeah.
little skeptical of your f4 move, but now I really like it. And one thing that's going for Alice really well is this tournament, right? So she can be really confident about her play because as we can see, she leads with a perfect score, 2 out of 2. And I mean, yes, she is the youngest and lowest rated player, but who cares now when she's winning everything that comes her way? She's a 2-time American Cup winner, but she also scored some medals at the US Women's Championship. She scored medals at the Women's World Olympiad. So all she's now looking for is to earn her first GM Nord and the second one, and then to become the Grandmaster.
By the way, the question that I asked you at the beginning of our broadcast, so will history repeat itself? Do you know that not only Anna Zatonskih won the Cairns Cup as the lowest seed in the field, but that was actually her first GM norm.
Oh, wow.
Or second,
yes.
right?
No, it was actually her
You
first.
checked?
Yes, I've checked it because, you know, it's like I know Anna for so many years and it was such an achievement. She scored her first GM norm at 45. So it was so inspiring for me because I think that anything is possible as long as you are dedicated to the game. And
Do you have any GM norms,
I do
Almira?
have, yes.
1, 2?
Well, 2, but like
Nice.
I forgot, you know, about them. Doesn't really matter, you know. I think it's just you have to like the game, and you know, in order to play those events, you have to prepare and to be ready to play any opening and also long games. And I think that energy is a very important factor because this sustained intellectual effort, you know, it proves that how fit you have to be, because after 5, 6, 7 hours, you know, one mistake and this is it, and your mind still has to be creative and to produce moves which are very strong. So I'm
hearing that we have a very special guest and that's Renee Bartlett. Renee, you are the Executive Director at US Chess. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Hello.
How are you doing? What's new in the world of chess at US Chess?
Well, we're really busy here at US Chess with events. First and foremost, I should announce that we have a new director of events, Pete Karianis, and you probably know that name because he was our assistant director of events, and now he has the title of director of events, and we're getting ready for the US Open.
Oh, wow.
That's happening July 28th through August 3rd at the Madison Marriott West in Wisconsin.
Wow. And how many players do you expect to be at this event?
You know, we hope we're going to get hundreds of players at this event. But one of the things that I want to make sure your viewers know is that there is an early registration deadline coming up on July 7th. And so we want to make sure that everyone who wants to register gets in early for the early registration fee by 11:59 Eastern Time so that they can take advantage of that. And of course, as you know, the winner of the US Open gets an invitation to the US Championships in October.
That is a giant incentive. So everybody who wants to play, make sure you register in time.
Renee, the Cairns Cup is the strongest women's event on the US soil and one of the strongest in the world. Please tell us about its significance for the US chess.
Absolutely. Last year, I got to attend for the first time the opening ceremony for the Cairns Cup. And of course, it's so impressive to see world talent right there in St. Louis competing for such a significant prize for women. One of the things that I shared with the attendees at the opening ceremony was just about how important the St. Louis Chess Club has been in growing women and girls in chess. And one of the ways that they have impacted it is a partnership with the U.S. Chess Federation in providing significant grants for our women's program.
Mm-hmm. And other tournaments that are very popular here in St. Louis, Renee, are the juniors, girls, and seniors championships that are happening in July. What do you think about them? How exciting are these events to watch for you?
Oh my goodness, seeing the young talent in the U.S. and each year we see different players showing up and getting invitations. I can't wait to see who comes out on top this year.
And I also know that there's voting going on in the U.S. chess. I voted. So what can you tell us about that?
Oh, thank you for mentioning that. You know, registered voters with the U.S. Chess Federation are able to vote. They received their ballots on June 10th, and the deadline to cast your votes is July 10th. And this is significant because we have 4 seats, half of our elected board are up. And so we want to see good participation. We'd love to see all of our registered voters vote by July 10th.
Thank you, Renee. And what are other events that US Chess is planning?
Hey, I'm going to give you just a little sneak peek because we're about to get really active online. And so if US Chess members have joined the US Chess Club on chess.com, we're going to be having more events this summer in the US Chess Club and the Women's and Girls Club. So please make sure you join that club on chess.com and be watching for future announcements.
It's a pity that we cannot enroll.
And Renee, we have to ask you, because it's the Cairns Cup, there are so many popular women here, strongest women in the world. Who is your pick? Who are you rooting for in this event?
Well, you know, as the executive director of US Chess, I have to be rooting for our US women, and it's hard to pick between them because they're so talented. I'm a big fan of them all.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Renee. We really appreciate all your work you do for US Chess, because I know before you became the executive, you also worked as an assistant at US Chess and at the school board, kind of reinforcing chess activities in schools.
Yes, I have worked significantly at home being an organizer in Madison, Alabama, where we have the highest concentration of girls playing chess in the state. I'm active at a local level, and then yes, I was doing that before I joined the staff of US Chess.
Awesome. Wow, that sounds amazing.
Thank you, Renee, for all those wonderful initiatives, and good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you. And we're going to throw it to Yasser. Yasser, you have some cool things to analyze for us. Tell us.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, big shout out to Renee in choosing my choice as well. I chose Carissa, and you heard it yourself. Renee there supporting me completely. I'd like to turn our attention to Alice's game. But first, I'd like to give a kind of an insight about the openings and why the openings and the study and the subtleties of openings are so incredibly difficult, even for the top grandmasters. Nana, had come up with rather different twists to the Queen's Indian, and she kind of tricked Alice, I want to say. She tricked Alice into playing the move A2, A3. Once Nana saw the move A2, A3, which is designed to prevent a bishop B4, Nana decided, well, of course she's going to do the double fianchetto. Queen C2, playing for a big center with E4, and we transpose into a bit of a Grunfeld-looking position. Oops, I went a little bit too fast there. Apologies. I have thick fingers for the control here. And for me, this was actually a very crucial moment and a really good learning moment. When I was young and learning all about chess, for me it was all about fast development, knight f3, bishop c4, bishop d3, I don't know, bishop g5. And the move I'm about to suggest would not have occurred to me. Well, maybe it would, but I would have quickly rejected it. The move that was a really good move was the move bishop b5 check. At first you see that move and you think to yourself, well, that can't really be any good. Black will play the move c7, c6. The bishop will be forced to go away, and you've lost a tempo. You've basically given black an opportunity to play an extra move, c7, c6, for free. But the difference is that the square c6 is now occupied by the pawn, and if we imagine something like the current position, well, there's no knight c6. So this idea of first playing the move bishop b5 check, and then you go, okay, well, another thing I could do is play the move bishop c6. Well, again, I've provoked you to misplacing your bishop. And then finally, well, I can block the check another way. I can play knight d7, knight f3, castles, castles. And Nana does not get the counterplay that she gets in the game, which is to play knight a5 and c5, as we're about to see. Let's go with what happened. Bishop c4, castles, knight e2, knight c6, castles, e7, e6, oops, excuse me, let me just, and a bishop a2. So in the Grunfeld, it's crucial that black gets counterplay against the pawn on d4. And that is often, you must play for the move c7, c5, as well as e6, e5. Aha, we already have a clue. The idea of this bishop being on this diagonal means we probably shouldn't be touching the pawn on e6, and more like we should be playing for the move c5. So after the move knight a5, I see from Nana's point of view that she's going to play queen e7, rook c8, and c5, or knight a5, c5 right away. So what is white going to do? What is Alice's going to do? You've got to look at Alice's position. You go, well, the knight on e2 isn't that great. The bishop, sure. The bishop could go to e3. What we'd really like to do is trade bishops. Yes, we could play f4, f5, but oftentimes the move f4 gets met by the move queen e7. And be careful, those Grunfeld players can be very, very tricky. If you don't get in the move f4, f5, oftentimes f7, f5 can be black's answer.
What I'm saying is we've got a very, very rich strategic fight on our hands. I think this is the type of game that Nana wanted as she came into play. I'm sure she's realized that Alice likes to attack. Alice is a good technical player, but she's going to be looking to use her experience to try to take the young Alice Lee down. Back to you in studio.
Thank you, Yasser. I agree, Alice is an active player, but let's take a look at the pie charts, the chances to win tournament. So pre-tournament, the leader is Humpy Koneru, 22.2% chances, and the last one here is Alice Lee with 2.3% chances. We are a little bit unhappy, but after yesterday, you can see how Alice is going forward. And right now, after round 2, she's in the second place, 18.6% chances to win the event, a huge bump in those chances, but Koneru Humpy is still first.
Well, I have some updates for you in the game between Harika and Mariya Muzychuk. So we had this position with the queen on h3, and I was thinking at first it was white to move, and I was looking at g4. And it's black to move, lucky for Mariya. But if she plays a move like, let's say, king g7, just a prophylaxis move, then after g4, black is actually in a bit of a trouble. Of course, if you play knight e7, that loses right away after d4, h6 is hanging. If you go knight h4, guess what? I'm still going d4, takes, bishop takes h6 is very interesting. g5, queen h4, almost checkmate, right? Queen h6, knight f6 is coming. Only move, only defense is rook h8. But after queen g3, white has a very pleasant position. You still have a huge weakness on f6, and I have a great knight and good queen as well. So that's why I just noticed that Mariya played h5, which is the best move. It's just purely against g4. But now, there's one more line I want to show you before I jump to this. There's also this in-between move, queen h4, which you probably noticed. But here after queen g2, of course, we're not trading queens. Knight goes to e7. And the same ideas, of course, don't work because h6 is protected, but I can still play g5. h5 seems to be the best move anyways. And this is a very messy position. I couldn't really understand this. So d5 is hanging, f6 is weak, but black queen is both good and bad on h4. I can get d4 in. I didn't know how to evaluate, but of course, engine just saying white is better after simply king h1.
And if knight captures the pawn? Oh, you cannot because there is knight takes
Not
c5.
yet, right? Not yet, but...
I can understand king h1 because you want to play d3 and f4.
Okay,
that should be the idea, of course. But black should trade queens, I think, at some point. Queen g4. Can you
If you
do
can
this?
force it, maybe?
Yes.
Look,
Are you
I still play f4. Even without the queens, I'm happy to do that. So yeah, this would be a very interesting position. This pawn structure is strange, right? We have doubled pawns, but have none of the pawns been traded? All 16 on the board?
Yes.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, it's a very close position. But yeah, h5 was the absolute best move, and now still king h1 is the best option. d4 is also interesting. After this, take, and yes, I think it was queen d3. So it's a temporary pawn sacrifice. You're not getting it back, but I think it's just to close up the bishop's diagonal, get rid of that e5 central pawn, and this bishop's going to be dangerous with bishop g5, knight f6 ideas.
This is a position I would prefer always to play for white, because I think there are a lot of holes in black position.
Yes. It's like a Swiss cheese, right?
Yeah, and I mean, white has the dark square bishop ready to go. I'm even thinking about king h1, Nazi, with the idea of playing f3, g4. Nice. Right, still trying to go for that break.
Yes, and I think black should be aware of that and may still go queen h4. Would you trade here or just move the queen to f3, keep it still on the board?
I would prefer not to trade, but should I be scared of that queen on h4 suddenly? No,
you still have some ideas of bishop g5. So I actually think black is uncomfortable here because best move, according to the engine, is f6. We're absolutely locking this queen in on h4, which is very inhuman way to play, right?
Yes, you can play h3.
Yeah, this is such a computer.
And black has to be worried about that queen.
Yeah, computer still finds moves for the queen and
queen d3.
Yeah, I was gonna say what about now, but Why not?
And Queen G7, the queen survived.
Yeah, some very interesting lines. We see D4 was played. Wow. Harika is playing very aggressively. Now after E takes D, she has a couple of different moves. Is there immediate bishop G5?
F6.
F6, and let's say then I step back. Because I provoked this before, you got Queen H4, it looks good.
I think I should bring my queen to the defense, something like
Maybe
Queen E7, yes, and Queen G7 if you're
Well, let's go Rook AE1.
Rook AE1 makes sense. Queen F7. And maybe our queen's not that great anymore on H3. Maybe we have to bring it back.
Well, I go C4 first. I defend my pawn on D5.
We're down a full pawn. And our compensation is, I guess, the bad bishop and some halts in black's position. But can we actually get to them? This knight on F5 is very good.
So we will try to get rid of the knight to play Queen F3, H3, and G4.
Let's play King G7 here. I will try.
It's black to play, right?
King G7.
Oh, sorry, King
yes,
G7.
I will play for the
Queen
devil.
F3.
You don't want to go G4 right away? You want to take with the pawn?
I thought I need to prepare it, but actually now when the king is on G7, I can...
But we can try it, right?
Well, but I wanted to play Rook H8 here.
Okay, you have H file, I have G file. Knight G3, let's get rid of that knight. Rook can come into E6, it's something.
Well, but I will take, you can't take with the F, be careful. Maybe you can, but like...
No, I will take with H pawn.
Looks like I can.
You can?
Really?
So, what should I ask?
Jazzy, you have no fear.
Check, yes.
Yeah, it's not me playing this, but HG still looks better.
But then I wanted to double my rooks on the H file.
Okay. Yeah, this is... I guess
see.
I can just trade on H1, but then I'm not playing for a win either. So maybe F takes G, because it does something. We open F6. Now if you try Rook H5, Rook E6 is unpleasant, right? Because can you play F5? Looks like now white is actually better after Queen F4. I want to just double and play Rook E7. Yeah.
F3 is a very interesting move. So I think that, Nazi, you brought the attacker, from me, and I'm bringing the poet out of you.
Yeah.
In the style of Renaissance masters, we're trying, to create a masterpiece on the board.
It's easy to do when we're commentators, right? As players, not so much. Taking such huge risks at the board, always risky.
But I need to say, I think this is a nice choice by Harika, right? Kind of throw Mariya Muzychuk off, play something completely different, and this knight G5 is slightly uncomfortable, especially if you are unfamiliar with it.
And she's putting a lot of pressure on the player who's already struggling in the event. So, yeah, Harika is playing according to all what books tell you how you should play in this type of situation.
Because psychology is a big part of chess.
Absolutely.
So what game?
You can see Mariya looks worried. Objectively, she's still fine, but if she thinks she's already worse, then it's harder to find the right moves. What game do you guys want
I
to go
thought we can take a look at the game of Bibisara, Assaubayeva, and Zhongyi, because they played that Queen B5. I mean, Bibisara played that Queen B5 move that we were talking about with Nazi.
Okay, let's have a look. So CD5 was played, CD5, Queen B5.
And the idea is, as we noticed, is if black, instead of Queen D7, go Knight D7, black is completely lost because white has this Queen C6 moves, kind of crazy, attacking the bishop, and you have nowhere to go safely with the bishop.
Yeah, this is such an unusual way of winning a piece. Actually, I think that there are a few ways of losing a piece in the Petrov defense. Sometimes you miss something on F5, so you have to be very careful. I think the Petrov players know it. So Queen D7 was played.
And Zhongyi did that move.
Rook B1, so protecting the queen. I think that's what I wanted to tell you, Katerina, that after A4, which we analyzed because we want to fix the
that A7 weakness,
yes, the pawn on the queen side, but I think that you can actually play A5, no? Can't you? Because I was thinking about this position. You're not allowing me to have this passed pawn.
Right, no, I have to capture en passant.
Yes, you have to capture, and then you can take with the rook or even with the knight and then bring it to C7. And you have this weakness on C3, I have this weakness on B6. This position seems equal to me. So I think A5 was the move, and that's why Bibisara decided to play Rook B1.
And also rook b1 is defending the queen, and if black captures the queen, then suddenly the rook is attacking the pawn on d5.
And rook b1, once again, is also a very standard idea in the Petrov defense for white, for those reasons that you just mentioned. The d5 pawn has to be attacked before actually the knight, can get to f6. So that's the idea. So rook d8,
and again, we are kind of indirectly defending the pawn on d5. You cannot touch that pawn. Be very careful because there's always the discovered attack with bishop take h2.
And the queen is lost here, of course. So this is a very positional game. However, so after rook d8, white played g3. So I'm
finally attacking also the pawn on d5.
Yes, and I'm preparing also rook g2. Of course, so now queen d5 is possible because bishop g3 would be losing a piece, and then bishop f8 and knight e5, forcing the queen trade, knight a6. So the knight is going to c7, protecting the d5 pawn, and maybe knight e6 then, and also rook c8, because I have to start pressuring your c3 pawn. So king f1, okay, bringing the king closer to the center, rook c8, rook b3, knight b8. Okay, Katerina, this is a very unusual way of finishing the development, because I think that now she wants to play knight d7 and to get rid of this powerful knight on e5. She doesn't want to go on c7 because I think that this is the idea.
Yeah.
So after knight b8, king e2 was played. But
so
I
white
think
is activating the king?
They should be following the game because I think that I've seen this already. The king has to come to d3, f6, because this allows also the king to get closer to the center, f6. And now
that's it. We are in the current position. Both players having around 1 hour. Bibisara having a disadvantage of 10 minutes.
I can get rid of this one. Okay, now I got rid of this one. Okay, and now I get rid of this one at some point. Yes, but the king is going to e6. If, for example, if the rooks were traded, so the king has a perfect march. And
so white is defending the only weakness, the c3. Maybe not the only weakness, maybe there's also weakness on a2. That pawn is also weak, but no one can really attack this pawn. So
you would want to create like a second weakness in the black's camp. Okay, you have the d5 pawn. A standard plan would be to play a4, a5 here.
So just go and attack.
Yes, attacking the pawn, but you need to activate the second rook. You need to bring it to the a file for that purpose. So should you play bishop a3, transpose it to rook endgame? Which
so you want to
trade
bishop a3?
But it's completely equal for me. So I actually want to try bishop d2, one active try, and then bring the rook to the a file. What can we do? But
bishop b2?
No, bishop d2.
d2.
So rook c4 maybe. Can I activate the rook in this way? And if you play rook a1, rook a4.
I feel I would still improve maybe first the king, but yeah, rook c4 fine.
Because
you're stopping that a4 idea.
Let's say if you play king f7, that's I wanted, so now I am in time here. So to play a4, let's say you're improving your other rook, because now after rook b5 you can always play king e6 and maybe, oh no, king e6, by the way, careful, this is losing.
Oh, so you have to be careful about losing that pawn on d5.
You can't play rook c8 yet, but then, I understand now. Okay, it's a bit tricky, but I think that you should start with rook c4.
Yeah, now I understand your idea. We start with rook c4, and anytime white goes rook a1, we're just going to play rook a4. You cannot get to the square if I'm on the square.
Exactly, so that was my defense.
And let's take a close look at Tang Zhongyi. She's the returning Cairns Cup champion. She's 33 years old, from China, FIDE rating 2547, and she's also the world champion challenger.
And she was the former world champion.
And world champion, yeah.
Such an accomplished player. However, in this tournament, she started badly, if I may say so. She only managed to make one draw with the white pieces. She played twice with the white pieces, and she desperately needs to catch up with the leaders if she wants to be in contention for the first place, or at least for the podium.
Especially the first game against Alina Kashlinskaya, she made this kind of inaccurate c4 and then she was struggling. But now maybe she's trying to get back. She made a draw in the second round, but it's always difficult here because every round you are facing such a strong player.
Well, both of you are looking for some activity for white in this endgame, right? And you were trying to make a4 successful. How about this? What if we try on the queen side? What if we go g4, f4, and f5? Just gain a lot of space on the king side so we can put pressure on both sides of the board. That gives you better chances of your opponent messing up, right? So let's say g4.
So can I start trading like king f7, rook e6?
Okay, let's say I just go f4.
Rook e6.
Apparently f5 is good, but okay. Let's take rook e6.
Take on e6.
Take. Oops. Then I will go a4. So I'm trying to play on both sides.
So now you can play for e6.
Yes,
you cannot. You can no longer play rook c4.
So I can kind of distract you and make you think that I'm playing on the king side, and then also switch to both sides.
So now I want to do f5. I want you to lock your pawns on dark squares.
f5 is very strong, and my bishop ends up being bad. So actually in this position, maybe white should start with h4, h5 first. So slight improvement of that line.
So let's still go rook e6.
Rook e6, you just want these pieces to come off. Oh, rook h1. Would you consider this move here, rook h1?
Rook h1 simply not allowing to trade rook, because I feel that the computer evaluates that it will be easier for black to defend with
just
one
rook. Yeah, of course. This is like a Karpov type of move, right? Just either close the file or just avoid the trade.
How often do you give up a file to just save, an exchange of a rook?
It's very rare.
But can you play bishop e3 here? Rook e3.
Rook e3 is also very interesting because... but okay, you want to keep both rooks on the board, so let's try bishop e3.
And I hear we have some breaking news. Alice Lee is in time trouble, so maybe let's go to that game to see what happened. Because they were moving very slowly. So where we finished with move...
Here, I think that bishop a2 was played. Knight a5, it's a standard idea here, Katerina. We want to challenge white's center and play c5. Bishop b2 was played, so c5 is played. And actually, I think that according to the position that we analyzed previously with Nazi, and the computer confirms that black achieved what they wanted here. The bishop on g7 is powerful. The bishop on b7 is also working. The knight on a5 is not out of play because it's controlling all the squares and constantly threatening to jump on c4. So c5, rook d1 was just played by Alice. So 38 minutes left for her. And let's see. Rook d1, of course, overprotecting the pawn on d4, and maybe she wants to push d5.
Or even discover the attack to capture the pawn on c5. So we have to move the queen away. Let's say queen...
You can play queen c7 and threaten to take on d4. Yes.
Let's start with queen e7.
Queen e7 you want? Okay. So queen e7 here. I'm not sure about d5 immediately because it might be your best try, because we can transpose if we play f4, then rook c8. Yes, and it's
like f4
yes, it's
now.
Too much. It's too much. I feel that you are not in time because all black's pieces are already on their perfect squares, and you just need to bring the rooks to c8.
Rooks are the only two pieces for black that are not yet developed.
Can we try f5? I'm a bit afraid, but then I think that c takes d4, unless you take with the piece. But c takes d4,
rook
then
ac8.
Rook c8. What do you do with? You have to play queen b1, probably. You need to protect this pawn.
And now maybe knight c4.
Knight c4.
I want to activate that knight. I'm seeing a fork on knight e3.
Yes, so that's the fork. Here, so my bishop c4.
Because anytime you capture the knight, that's good for me, right? These trades just takes. I'm putting more pressure on that d4 pawn. And then maybe even looking this way.
Then those bishops are monsters. No, we cannot allow this. f4 is premature. We have to, first of all, to anticipate.
I like your thinking of d5 at some moment, but...
The thing is, I wanted to try d5 here. So let's try the immediate d5, so you take. And I was thinking, can I play c4 here? So look at this bishop on b2 and look at this bishop on a2. So this one move, of course, it allows you to jump on d4, but the d5 pawn is on priest, maybe not immediately, let's say. I think that maybe you still have this knight f5 here.
Yeah,
yes.
But I have queen. Do I have queen here?
No, I will take on here.
I know you wanted to try this one. Then if I take, you have a royal fork here.
Oh. Let's check with Yasser. Maybe he has analyzed this position.
Thank you. Indeed, I've been keeping a very watchful eye on this game, as Alice Lee is quite the sensation. I wanted to say that Alice is getting into time trouble from this position because the moves do not flow naturally for white. The bishop on a2 has potential, but at the moment, with the pawns on e6 and f7, the bishop on a2, the potential of the bishop based on ideas of c4, d5 is unrealized. In the meanwhile, what Nana has very cleverly done is put the pressure on the d4 pawn, very, very typical of Grunfeld players. And when you look at white's bishops in a conventional Grunfeld, the bishops on a2 and b2 feel a little bit offsides. Usually one bishop is on e3, the other bishop is on d3. Alice is getting into time trouble because I think she doesn't like her position, and neither do I. I like Black's position, but I like Black's position for a much more direct answer, not these ideas of c4 trying to close the bishops, but just go for it, attack. Captures on d4, captures on d4, and the move I've been looking at here is queen d3. Now, at first blush, you kind of think, well, white's fine, what's the problem? The central pawn duos. Well, one thing is you're not threatening d5. That bishop is in a nasty pin. Imagine you get hit with the move queen h4. Well, whoa, that came from the right field. What's the idea of queen h4? Oh, give me the pawn. Do you really want to play the move f2, f3? Imagine you get suckered, if you will, into playing the move knight g3. Then you look at the knight on g3 and you say, what's your future potential? Are you really going to play knight f5, knight h5? It's a pretty defensive looking piece. And as Almira was saying, Almira, that knight on a5 may look offsides. No. It's not true. Rook c7 is one of those beautiful flexible moves. On the one hand, I might just be doubling the rooks. Remember I told you that in the Grunfeld, it's all about the pressure on the d4 pawn. Well, there's also this idea. So, for example, the move the machine actually likes is queen e2, and I'm kind of going like, what? Rook f8 to c8, ideas of rook c2, ideas of knight c4. The engine agrees with me. Half a pawn better for black. And all of this is very straightforward. Once again, we're looking at takes, no arguments here. Rook c8, you want to keep an eye on the e4 pawn. Yes, you could play queen b1, but then that invites immediately knight c4. So Alice is more or less required to play the move queen d3. Then again, this move, queen h4, knight g3, we've seen rook c1, maybe we have to play f3. And for me, just visually, Grunfeld defense players have to rejoice that the pressure is from a far distance, this bishop, this rook, but knight on e2, white's potential
As they say in Mexico, no me gusta. Back to you in studio.
Thank you, Yasser. Let me be the devil's advocate. So I actually thought that f3 was necessary. Let's bring the position on the board for you. So here in the line analyzed by Yasser, queen h4, I think that f3 is an absolute must. And first of all, let's say if black is going to double on the c file, then I need actually to play rook c1 and to exchange those rooks. And now I feel that the queen on h4 is not doing anything, and the bishop on b7 is quite passive, is not attacking anything for the moment. So let me check the move that Yasser suggested here, rook d8, and actually I wanted to try and to play rook c1 here. So what I wanted to check is, aren't we losing something here? No, I don't think that black can dare to play bishop d4 because
I know you're relying on that e5 move,
yes,
right? Kind of to
but I think
put
that
pressure
now,
on that pinned piece, but also you are helping that bishop to develop.
So
some rook c7 or...
So I actually think that rook c1 is helpful in both variations. I need to exchange one of those rooks, and then I can bring my other rook to d1. What do you think, Katerina?
Well, I think I am going to retreat with my queen. So rook d8 I like.
Then, so rook d8 first, rook c1.
And then let's go maybe just back, queen e7.
Queen e7, then I am exchanging once again.
Rook captures.
I want to control all the squares, and I will play rook c1 once again. I need to.
I go queen d7.
Okay, queen d7.
So I want you to capture my rook, so I have some, chances with even maybe bishop a6 in the future. I'm going to take with queen.
Bishop a6. I like this idea. Sorry. Just a second. Let me maybe then wait for one moment. Okay.
Because if I'm able to recapture with the queen, then I can be activating the bishop this way and maybe fighting more for the c4 square.
I understand this. So can I do something else? But the problem is I have no active plan here with white as well, and I cannot play d5 because this is one of white's main ideas. So wait,
because this bishop is just not protected, so it's just almost never possible.
But can I use this moment and maybe play?
Do you need some engine's help?
Bishop.
Tell us, Nazi, help us. Yes. What do you feel about this position?
Your analysis is very good. Let's just try to create something with the help of engine, right? So you're looking at rook c8, right?
Yes, queen d3.
Queen d3, let's say queen d7.
That's what we were looking.
Yes.
Yasser wanted queen h4.
Queen h4, because I'm trying to refute Yasser's approach. So I'm saying that f3...
Then let's go f4. Why f3?
F4.
Let's go f4 all the way.
Almira, remember, that's what you wanted at the beginning.
Yes, exactly. f4, and guess what? Best move here for black, b5. Of course, we want to put the knight on c4, but it's... Oh, okay, we're not hanging a pawn? Or are we? I'm so confused. What's after queen b5? Rook c2, I see. All the minor pieces are
very
hanging.
Messy.
Right, this on the second rank, all our minor pieces are hanging. Knight on a5, bishop on b7, unprotected. Looks like black is much better here. After rook f2, a6. Or if you take on a5, black is happy to take on b2. If you go here, I'll take on e4. This is a complete mess.
No, but you have to play f3. Now, here, yes, like I have to force you to play f3 because you have to deprive your opponent of any counterplay. And if your opponent is Nana Dzagnidze, this is the move I'm going to make.
Okay, can I show you one more line? What if we don't take on b5 and choose something more solid here? Let's say bishop c3. You go knight c4, right?
Yes.
Only move. And here, maybe a4. So I'm not giving you the e4 pawn. Those lines were a little bit crazy and giving black too much play, I agree. So rook b1, and here it's... Now I'm also provoking black to play something crazy like f5.
Oh.
And if you play f5, you're all in, right? And this is now game on 3 results. So we might see this.
Nazi, one more question. Yes. What if instead of... So if we move back, after f4, b5...
Yes.
Let's say I'm really brave. Can I go f5 immediately?
Let's try that.
To be
E4 is
honest, I
hanging.
think that-
Yeah, but then I take on b5, you take?
You are really brave, Katerina.
It's not her game. Why
It's not my pieces.
What if I go queen g4?
Knight g3?
Knight
Oh,
g3.
this looks
It's gotta be
horrible.
made,
I want to
right?
play some f6 and kind of...
Ooh, I think g2 is a little too weak.
Okay, yeah, that's a problem.
Good thing for you, we can just take it back. No problem. Yeah, 5 is a little premature here.
Yeah,
so
that's why the bishop on b7 is just so strong on
Yes.
that diagonal.
It absolutely is. So if you do play f4, you have to be careful and always watch out for bishop e4s. Let's
So now
see.
we
They're following
understand
these lines, by the way.
Why
Ooh.
Almira really wants to play f3 all the time.
Nana
on
didn't play
queen
queen
h4,
h4,
yes.
went immediately b5.
Oh, wow.
Interesting. So same idea. If you take on b5, I go rook c2. And I'm very unhappy when I see my opponent's rook on the second rank, so I wouldn't touch that pawn. But what can we do? Can we still try bishop c3, knight c4? And maybe d5, how about that? Because we were just talking about how good that bishop is on b7. This is
an
interesting, right?
idea as well, Nazi. But can I try one little thing before? So somehow I'm trying to prevent the conflict. So can I play rook c1 here first? I don't
Okay.
want you to play knight c4. What are you supposed
I'm
to?
still going
Are you still going to?
Because e4 pawn is
bishop
hanging, right?
b4. Okay,
Yes.
so okay, but this is a very clever move.
That's why b5 was very
b5
strong.
immediately without queen h4.
Yeah.
It's a very clever move. So it doesn't allow me to play f3.
Oh.
Yes, so this is
f3 is now too slow, right?
Yes.
Because when you played queen h4, at least you were defended.
Yes.
Now it feels like a waste of a tempo. Wow.
Oh,
yeah,
b5.
very good move. Nana seems to be in a very good shape and putting pressure on Alice, who's leading the tournament. Reading the body language, Alice does not look happy. On the other hand, Nana looks like, okay, I'm with black, I've got this position, quite happy.
I mean, this is a position you want to have with black pieces, right? It's dynamic, you know what you want to accomplish. And also you see that Alice doesn't have a direct target in her position.
Thing is, I also think that Nana has studied her classics. When Yasser was talking about bishop b5, by the way, in the game that we analyzed in this game, but when Alice played bishop c4, Yasser suggested bishop b5. It's such a subtle difference, but I agree with him absolutely. It made me think about the move made by Bobby Fischer in the 6th game against Boris Spassky, bishop b5 as well. Not the same structure, not the same position, but with the same idea. You do not allow black to develop in the way they want to develop. And then he went on to win this game, which is known to be one of the masterpieces. So bishop b5 maybe was such an incredible, like such a slight change.
And we are going to look at the predictions for this round. Oh, so let's go first to Yasser because he has something to say. Yasser, over to you.
I'm not so sure I have something to say. I just love the discussion. And you're right, Almira, this Bobby Fischer, Tartakova Makadanov Bondaresky variation, the TMB of the Queen's Gambit declined. It was that bishop b5 move that Bobby played against Boris that was so disruptive. And again, something that Alice is going to learn in her career, that she had that disruptive chance. I was advocating for the move queen h4 for black, and I liked Nana's position. She played the move b6, b5, and as you've been discussing, I'm really warming up to that move as well for exactly the same reasons that Nasi's discussing. Yeah, you like to take that pawn on b5, but you see, bishop takes e4, you see rook c2, and you go, well, better not to take the pawn on b5. You'd love to play d5, the problem is the bishop is hanging, but the move b5 prepares, as you've been discussing, knight c4. So I was looking at bishop to c3, knight to c4, d5 in this position, and I was trying to understand bishop takes c3, and the problem is you've got this knight b2, I end up having to recapture with the queen. E takes d5, e takes d5. You get in these positions where the Grunfeld, the passed pawn could be a strength or a liability, but the engine just basically says, look, rook e8, black is better. You would love to play knight d4 so you could go knight c6, but queen takes d5 is coming with a threat of mate. So again, Alice at the moment, I think she's not a happy camper, and the time on the clock is such a factor that it's a very revealing factor that she's not very comfortable. Our tournament leader is looking at, I think, trying to equalize the game. Strangely enough, the computer says, go back. Just get out, allow the knight c4, but get back to play queen b1 so that you can play d5. And the computer says, things are not terrible. Things are not terrible. With the move queen b1, in fact, the engine is saying Alice is fine, but she needs to find a retreating move. Pretty hard to do. Back to you in studio.
Thank you.
I see Nana looking very relaxed. In fact, somebody better go over there and shake her awake. I am sure she's just calculating the situation. Back to you in studio.
Thank you, Yasser. What a powerful play. b5. We will follow this game closely. Katerina, do we have something for the commentators?
Yes, we have stumped the commentators. We have a question. So let's take a look what it is today. Round 1 featured 5 decisive games. Only one other time has there been, a round in the Cairns Cup with 5 decisive games. Which year featured this round? 2020, 2023, 2024. Wow, I have
really
no
be any
idea.
of them, right?
I really 5 out of 5 decisive games. Nazi, what's your pick?
I did commentary for the last 2 years and I don't remember it, so I'm going to go with 2020.
The thing is, I was not here in 2024, but I think I will go with 2020 as well.
So I will go to 2023, just to do something
my memory,
different.
Almira, by the way. But okay, we'll find out the answer after the break.
And as we go to break, Yasser asked the players their perception of the evolution of women's chess. Take a look and we will be right back.
How do you think women's chess has evolved over the last few years?
Oh, very drastically. That's in a positive way. Like we have plenty of women tournaments, like invitation tournaments like Cairns Cup, Norway, and we also have the Grand Prix series.
Exactly.
So there are a lot of tournaments which are specifically aimed for women and also very good prize funds so that they could survive professionally. But way back when I became a grandmaster in 2002, it was very difficult to be a professional.
Precisely.
So that way, it's a very good sign that the future for women chess is much more brighter.
I think for me, growing up in this environment where women's chess has continued to grow and blossom over the past decade, I think even exponentially, it's been really great. And I think the St. Louis Chess Club and US Chess have done a wonderful job in increasing the prize fund and being sort of the leaders for giving such wonderful opportunities to girls and women in the US. And I think these tournaments, I play in a lot of St. Louis tournaments.
Mm-hmm.
They've definitely motivated me to keep playing, keep improving, and to play in such wonderful conditions against other top women. It has been wonderful.
Yeah, I can say that the situation is getting better. Still, we do not have so many tournaments as men do. But I think that the level of women's chess in general is getting better, and especially in some countries, the rivalry is very difficult.
And I absolutely agree. It's increased greatly, I want to say. and the rivalries are intense. They're very, very challenging here in the United States. The U.S. Women's Championships are getting really good. Why? Why are women improving so much?
I think because of the young girls, they want to become successful. They have opportunities, much more opportunities than, as you mentioned, many years ago. And
Right.
why not? I mean, chess is a nice game. You can travel, you can meet friends.
Right.
I was so lucky because when I was 10 years old, it wasn't a lot of chess tournaments for women and prizes aren't very high. And I remember that I was 13 years old and I coming for the World Rapid and Blitz in Saudi Arabia. And it was the first tournament for women where was very high prize fund. And I even take 10th place, and in 13 years old it was fantastic result. And after this, I was very happy to see that the prize fund, and we also have a lot of tournaments, Cairns Cup, Grand Prix, Grand Swiss. Sometimes I think I played in the women's chess tournaments more than in opens.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's really good. For example, after this tournament, I also will go for the World Cup and Grand Swiss and maybe European club team. So a lot of women's tournament.
Especially recent years, I think it has evolved a lot. I think it can be because of the technology, because of women's tournament. We have more and more nowadays. I think for young kids and young girls, it's more easier to become women grandmasters, IM, and so on, because they have much more opportunities than we had in their age. Yes, so I think it's good. And also conditions and prizes increased. So yeah, it's all good, of course.
To me, a major change that has happened is that players now have the liberty to choose for themselves. So if you look at my predecessors, such as Xie and Zhu Cheng, once they formed their own family, they gradually quit chess and were no longer active. But now, if you look at my generation, increasingly we see women players, even after getting married, having their children, they continue to play. They continue to carry out a career, not only because they would like to do so, but also increasingly they're receiving support from their families as well. I think this is mainly a change in mentality, in the way that people think about their career. And that's one huge improvement that has happened in the last 10, 20 years.
Well, I think in general it's getting better and better. We have more women's chess players, we have more tournaments with great prize funds, which of course attracts a lot of women. We have a lot of young girls who are eager to beat all the records. So I think that we are doing great.
I think it's changed quite a bit in sort of the last, let's say, like 10 years since I really started playing quite seriously. I remember like my first few like US Junior girls, they're kind of held in like these, we had like independent sponsors for them, and it wasn't anything very in the system, I guess. And so kind of every year it's like a question of whether or not we'll be able to play like the junior girls until I moved here to St. Louis. And yeah, I think the junior girls has been around for many years now, and hopefully will continue to be. I kind of see women's chess evolving, especially quickly in the last couple years. We had like the women's section of Norway Chess, which is great to see. We have the Cairns Cup now. So yeah, I think it's something that's very important, and I'm kind of happy to see it progress.
I mean, a lot than, since the beginning when we see the conditions and everything to now, of course, it evolved a lot more. And I think that also motivates us to do well and to give all that we can, because it's been 25 years I started my World Youth Championship, and the conditions evolved so much that I feel as a beginner and playing again and again for this to play our best. So this motivation is still there, I think, because of the evolving the tournaments of women's chess, the conditions, the stature of it. Definitely, I think it's hard to pinpoint one, but one of it I would say is the prize fund increased heavily.
Very good.
Yeah, which is very good. That's why I think one of the way for the people also to see, when they see the prize fund, they will be inspired too. So definitely, there are also the conditions of the tournaments. There are more and more important events now. I mean, I don't see myself sitting at home this whole year. There are so many important tournaments. So yeah, I hope it gets better, bigger, and I am there to compete.
"10 years, one legacy." The Grand Chess Tour marks a decade of mastery where only the strongest chess minds carve their names into history. Each piece has its role, like soldiers in a grand army, with commanders to lead them into the tour's 10th year and a prize fund of $1.6 million. The Grand Chess Tour starts in Warsaw with the Superbet Rapid and Blitz Poland, immediately followed by the Superbet Chess Classic Romania in Bucharest, then off to Zagreb for the Super United Rapid and Blitz Croatia, followed by back-to-back events in St. Louis, Missouri with the St. Louis Rapid and Blitz and the Sinkfield Cup. And the culmination of the grand finale in the city of Sao Paulo, Brazil, will determine the 2025 Grand Chess Tour champion. Fight with every ounce of strength for victory. This isn't just a moment. This is history.
National titles are up for grabs as rising stars and chess legends converge in the chess capital of America, St. Louis, Missouri, for the 2025 U.S. Senior, Junior, and Girls Championships. Beginning July 15th, 30 elite players across 3 fields will compete for a total prize fund of $225,000. 2024 U.S. Senior Champion Vladimir Akopian returns to defend his title, while returning junior players, International Master Justin Wang and Grandmaster Brewington Hardaway and Abhimanyu Mishra will be fighting for first place. In the Junior Girls Championship, top seed Zoe Tang chases her first national title in what promises to be a wide-open field. Young stars and seasoned vets are ready to leave it all on the board. Catch all the action on the St. Louis Chess Club YouTube and Twitch channels.
Welcome back, everyone, to round 3 of the Cairns Cup. And before we look at the game, let's check the standings after the first 2 rounds. We have a sole leader, Alice Lee, who managed to win both of her games, and she has 2 points. And then there is a 3-way tie for the second place. Humpy Koneru, Harika Dronavalli, and Alina Kashlinskaya with 1.5 points. Now, for today's round, all games seems kind of balanced.
Yeah, actually, I was just looking at my screen, and the eval bar is at 50% almost everywhere, just tiny bit off in every game. Alice Lee, we know she's in a bit of under pressure, but she's kind of defending well. This is first time she's defending, actually, right, out of this 3 rounds. Earlier, Nana had better chances to put even more pressure on Alice, but now it looks like she's recovered. It's still a dangerous position. Rook's coming on c2, and she needs to be careful, but I don't think Alice is going to lose this one. What about you?
She's holding her own. Yes?
Yeah, I think so.
And we will look at the game closer, but what if we take a look at all the others before we jump back to the Alice Lee and Nana Dzagnidze game? So we can start with the game of Carissa and Nino Batsiashvili.
Yes, let's
We
bring
left
the
it off
position.
here with the last move for Carissa being bishop d2.
The position actually has changed dramatically, so let's have a look. Katerina and Nazi will support our analysis by computer analysis. So bishop e6 was played. It is very important actually to play this move because you want to get rid of the bishop pair advantage. And also, let's say, if white plays bishop b6, rook e6. Then if you play the quiet move queen c2, you can try and play d5 here. So
black can even try to play in the center.
Of course. So bishop b5, pinning this knight, and d5 is not possible once again because then the e5 pawn is hanging.
It's going to be hanging.
It's very interesting play from both sides. So bishop b5, bishop d7 takes 2 to tango, Katerina. So
it's a quiet offer. If Carissa retreated back to bishop c4, maybe Nino could have played bishop e6, but no, Carissa is playing a3. Preparing maybe an attack on the queen side.
No, just I think that it simply takes this pawn from the a2 square, so it's no longer going to be on priest. So then you can connect your rooks, and also after, if the bishop is on e6, so you can take this pawn. So a3 is a very tricky move. Then knight e7 was played, bishop d7. Carissa decided to trade the bishops, the light square bishops, and she played c4 with the idea once again to deprive you, to deny black the possibility to play d5. It's a very thematical strategic idea. So knight g6, go into f4, h3.
Liking those black knights, knight h5, knight f4, right?
b5.
I like this move b5 to get rid of the doubled pawn.
Yes, challenges is sort of a Marozzi bind once again, only we are having another structure. So the pawns were exchanged on c4, queen on b3. Carissa immediately went a4. Maybe she wants to play a5 and to create a few weaknesses in the black's camp. So knight h5, targeting this square and maybe preparing the sacrifice on h3. So queen b5. Of course, I'm not going to exchange queens in this position. Nino is looking for an attack. I think she wants to play queen f6. Okay, this.
And I understand why Carissa is kind of trying to trade the queens, right? Because I just want to show this back, because what you mentioned, Almira, this is really could be dangerous to kind of clear the pawns in front of the white king and attack there with the other knight.
I wanted to mention one idea. For the moment, this idea is hidden because nothing has been sacrificed. But we were talking in the previous rounds about a lot of rook clicks. Remember that this rook can go to a3 now and to protect the knight, even though the queen is not there. So it's a very important defensive resource. So it's very interesting. You have to remember about it. And queen c6 was played. First of all, the queen on c6 is attacking the pawn on c7, but also attacking the rook on a8 and the rook on e8. So if a5 was played, and you cannot take on a5 with the rook, let's say, something like this. Knight f4, bishop b4, knight f4, so threatening knight h3 and taking the knight on f3. So you need either to move this knight or to protect it. Will rook a3 be played? Let's see. Queen c7. Carissa goes for it. Oh my God, those are...
Wow, so
this is the position on the board.
Rook a3 would be a bit safer, just to make sure we are guarding the knight on f3 and there are no tactics. But Carissa is saying, you know what, I want those complications. I will capture the pawn. And
so
now
what happens after knight h3?
So one option is to simply take. And after queen takes, now we are going to say, you know, maybe thank you very much for opening the g file so I can attack you. Or I do not have to recapture on h3. Right? Maybe I can also play just king f1.
I can share some agent's thoughts if you're interested.
Of course.
And actually, before we do that, we have stumped the commentators, right?
Right. So what is the answer? So we had a question when it happened, 5 out of 5 decisive games during Cairns Cup. Was it 2020, 2023, 2024?
A, 2020.
I hope B. Let's see.
I hope for you that it's
okay. Good job,
My memory
ladies.
is not that terrible.
It was round 5 during the 2020 Cairns Cup.
We did good, you know, so like 2 out of 3. I really hope that it's going to be 2020, because if you don't remember what happened in 2024, you know, does it?
Yeah, then I'm in trouble, right?
Yes, you're
All
in
right,
trouble.
so let's check in this game. Things are heating up. After I saw knight on f4, I was looking at immediately queen c7, curious why this wasn't working. So I took a I calculate this line after knight takes h3, takes queen f3, rook a3, great move that Almira was suggesting, queen f6, take on b6. There's a lot of pawns got traded in a very unusual way, and at the end of this, computer says equal, but practically speaking, black looks much better, right? Knight's coming to f4, white king is completely open, and we don't want to have this kind of position with white. So that's why Carissa took on f4 first, I thought, and I didn't think she was going to go for queen c7. I was looking for rook e3, moves like that. Now let's take a look. So according to the engine, best move is not even to take on h3, but to go rook c8.
Mm-hmm. And I have to capture, right?
You don't have to, but I mean, it's a hanging pawn, second free pawn, queen e3, right? Yes. Rook takes b2.
And a5, let's go.
a5, okay. You had only 3 moves away, but after queen g6, is knight h4 the only move? I think so, right? Because if you go g3, knight h3, take on f2, game ends. And here after queen g5, you have a problem. Knight cannot go back, g3 is still a bad move, and if you go queen g3, I'll take some material. Knight e2, rook e2, queen g3, if you take here, rook e2, and your pawn is not that fast, and if your knight was close enough to help the pawn, that would be great, but it's super far away and it says -3, so this is completely over in this position.
Oh, wow.
So rook c8 is very strong for Nino. She could get an advantage now. Let's take a look at also knight h3, because this is very tempting to play. I believe this is what Carissa has calculated. She can play both rook e3 or rook a3. Both are absolutely fine. Queen f4. She's still not better here, but maybe she likes this position because of the imbalances. She's hoping that she's going to create a passer on a file, and all her hopes are on that pawn. But maybe even, I know Katerina mentioned something about rook g3, queen e4, queen b6. Again, a lot of pawns come off. And if I didn't have the engine, I would say maybe white is better here. But engine likes black slightly. Very difficult position to evaluate. Everything is open. It's a major piece endgame. But we can see how rook c8 and that position we got after that is much better for black than knight takes h3. So if Nino takes her time, and she has also a huge advantage on the clock. She has 45 minutes against 19 minutes. So she doesn't have to rush. This is an absolutely critical moment for her. If she finds rook c8, she's in the driver's seat.
And let's take a look how these players match up. What is their head-to-head score? So Carissa has 1 win, 1 loss, and 1 draw against Nino Batsiashvili. Extremely balanced match. Right now, both of them having half a point, so they did lose a game already in this tournament, so they would like to get back. We have to mention that Carissa started with 2 blacks. So I think she's really enjoying white pieces, and she will try to push for more. And maybe that is why she's also playing this aggressive chess and taking risks.
Katerina, Nino is looking very inspired here. I know that she loves to attack. So you should choose in
sorry
between.
to interrupt, but I love her green blazer.
So beautiful. We have greens, right? You, me, them.
Well, Carissa as well.
Exactly.
Well, I'm the only one wearing the colors of the Cairns Cup. You know? But I think she might be choosing between the obvious knight h3 and the more subtle rook c8, which actually forces white to take on b6, and then she can activate her rooks. So it's a very interesting choice.
You know, one thing to also mention is that Carissa has only 18 minutes and Nino has 44 minutes. So already there is 25 minutes difference.
So should we, how do you call it, go around the horn?
Yeah, let's look. That's what Yasser always says. So let's look around the horn and see other games. So Harika, Dronavalli, and Mariya Muzychuk.
Where did we leave this game? Is this the current, sorry, what is the current position? This is the current position. I thought that this was the position that we've analyzed with Nazi, but
so it's very close to the game we analyzed. We were looking somewhere king g7, but we had this position.
So d4 was played, e takes d4, bishop d2, f6 was played by Mariya Muzychuk, then rook e1, and queen d7, because in our analysis we had the opportunity to play queen e7, then queen f7, but queen d7 with the same purpose. And Harika Dronavalli is still thinking, and she just took on d4. 22 minutes for Harika, a bit more for Mariya, 34. She's playing solidly today. She has to solve a lot of opening problems.
The funny part is this pin. So the knight cannot really capture this pawn on d4 because it's a pin. So if you capture with the bishop, what are we going to do? I remember Nazi was somewhere trying to throw g4. We may also be trying to look for the rook lift this way, but we get only here. We can get here, right? Yes. Because the knight cannot capture it.
I think rook a3, I will play queen f7 or queen g7. So I'm controlling all the squares. So after bishop
also
d4,
another move, sorry to jump in, is knight g3, right? Putting more pressure on this knight.
Knight g3 is a very strong move. I wanted to suggest it, yes. So after knight g3, what do you do?
So let's take a look at that move, knight
you
g3.
Will end up with a pawn structure which is completely ruined.
So if I'm gonna be a pawn grabber, bishop takes b2.
Bishop takes b2. Let's play rook b1.
I'm gonna go
bishop e5 maybe?
Bishop e5 all the way back.
Then I still have a 4. Okay, bishop d4 check. Where does it bring us? Knight f5.
Queen captures. I have to capture with the queen, I think. Otherwise, destroying the pawn structure with the queens on the board, that is too dangerous for black.
That bishop on e5 is gorgeous, isn't it? But I have some updates in another game, if you don't mind.
Go for it.
I'll show you. So in this game against between Humpy and Alina, everything seemed kind of equal in this endgame after Alina found this very important move, bishop g4. But now position has gotten absolutely crazy. So let's take a look. There's this check that happened. Bishop went. I was not expecting bishop g4. I was thinking maybe knight g4 and keep the pieces on the second rank. But after this, let's take a look. Bishop takes f6. Bishop is hanging. We have to take here. Now we have some checks and white king is uncomfortable. Humpy's not afraid. She just took on g7. Rook g8. Wouldn't you be worried here about your king?
A little bit.
I'm always worried.
Are we taking the pawn though? Why not, right? Because we have this in-between move. So both rook and the bishop are hanging, and they can defend each other, but we have the sneaky move rook h5, and now you think, okay, bishop g4, and I'm winning again. No, another in-between move with the check. But you still have to worry about bishop coming to f3, so this is very difficult to evaluate. Engine says best move is to go towards the center with the king, king d5. Wow, this is... I would be worried now that black king might get checkmated, right?
So I mean, we do like to activate the king, but with two rooks on the board and a bishop.
Yeah, it's very scary. Whose king is going to get checkmated? E3. I forgot about this pawn. There is also a pass pawn that's only 2 moves away. There's E2, rook D2, rook D1 ideas.
And your king
terrifying.
Can find the shelter
that's
here.
That's beautiful. Yes. So let's show it. If we go rook E1, king E4. Wow.
How is it not losing for
How is this
white?
triple zeros? That's so disappointing to see the triple zeros. Someone should be winning here. Not sure who. Let's say rook b6 or d6 to maybe bring the rook over and win this pawn.
Okay, so...
No, why don't you play bishop h3?
Let's check. Bishop h3. I'll give you a check.
And king f3.
Sorry. Rook b4, king f3, and only move, by the way, otherwise I'm lost. f5. Wow, this is so scary. Check. King h1. I want to go forward, you know, king f2, but this is losing after rook c1. I kind of trapped my own rook here.
Okay, I don't understand anything. Why is f5 the only move? So checkmate me, okay? I don't play f5, I go rook b3.
Okay. Rook b3.
So
rook g2. I might not checkmate you. I might get another pawn, another queen. I might promote that pawn.
Okay, rook d1.
I want to play king f2 and bishop g2 maybe.
That's
I should I have bishop b4 now?
No, bishop
Right, so you have to play rook g1. I go rook e1. You have to take and bishop g2.
This is brutal.
Oh, this would be such a beautiful way to win this game. Wow, this king. Where did it come from?
It's a beautiful king march, and this is all very poetic.
Yes, and all of this might happen because a lot of this were absolutely forcing moves. I mean, after rook g8, maybe Humpy will get scared and not take on d5. But if she doesn't, then black plays king e6, and it's black who's has better chances, right? We have this pass pawn again, white king is worse.
Okay, so let me play the devil's advocate. Bishop d4.
Bishop d4, all right.
And I just want to go a4, a5, that's it.
I should probably go right here. Engine prefers, okay, let's try bishop g4.
Okay, rook c1.
c1. I don't think I'll trade, right? Rook d2 with a tempo. If you
Keep
go bishop
attacking
e3,
my
rook
pieces. That is
Yes,
annoying.
that's
Okay,
very
bishop c3.
And also the other rook is absolutely not participating, which is not what you want, but hard to bring that rook into the game.
a4. Let's go.
Whose pawn's gonna be faster though? Okay, d4.
Because you have both pawns now. Okay.
Maybe we should try bishop c3 first, Katerina, because I thought if you're not taking the pawn on d5, then you have to neutralize this rook. I will play bishop c3.
Instead of?
Yes, instead of, no, the bishop is not on g4. Here, bishop c3, and I want at least to play rook d2 if I may.
That's probably better, but
no, not immediately,
not immediately,
because you are not threatening anything.
Take and d4, yes.
Yes, I need to keep an eye on it. Oh, but it's not so easy after king e6.
No, you can play a4, right? Ooh, h5, h4 is interesting, right? What do you do? If you just play, say, a5, I go h4. Yeah, this is hanging by a thread here.
No, this is becoming very scary. One rook on the second rank, second rook on the file, bishop there, pawn attacking. Wow, that kind of took a different turn than we expected.
Absolutely, and I think Alina's calculating all this, the way she's sitting, and she feels like she has a chance now for this kind of initiative to take the king all the way to f2.
She also has better time. When we look at the clock, Humpy Koneru has 22 minutes and Alina Kashlinskaya 30 minutes. And if things go right for Alina, she can be the leader after round 2,
and
after round 3.
She started the tournament with a victory with the black pieces against Zhongyi. So she always tries to equalize first with the black pieces, and then, if allowed, she tries to seize the initiative. And I think that this is exactly the moment where she assesses her chances. Should she try and play for a win here?
And again, we see the engine, the bar there, that it says equal, but I'm starting to feel that I see the plan for black, right? How to take a dynamic chance on white's maybe weakened king.
The thing is, what Nazi just demonstrated is that very often white is forced to play the only moves. Whether black can throw some wood into the fire, with one move or another move, and it still maintains the balance. So I feel that Humpy has to be very careful here. Maybe if rook d5 is the only precise move to make a draw, she has to make it. Or to maintain the balance and play rook d5 and rook h5 here. So let's just remind, we don't have this position on the board because we were analyzing the game between Harika Dronavalli and Mariya Muzychuk. So I still don't know what about this.
But we have some new developments in the game of Carissa. Nazi, you want to go into that?
Yes, so Nino didn't find the best move rook c8, but she also played an interesting move queen g6. I don't think we looked at this. We're looking at knight h3 or rook c8. So let's take a look. After queen g6, Carissa did play the best move, which was g3. Just to show you, knight h4 was another option, but after queen g5, you still have to play g3, and then why did you put the knight in the corner when it was not necessary? So after g3, knight takes h3 is going to happen. And here, best move is just king f1. If you go to h-file, you're just going to get checkmated. And in this position, there is queen g4 or queen h5. Both of them have similar ideas. Let's say I go queen g4. And when you go rook a3, here I was calculating rook takes a4. What do you think about this sacrifice?
No.
Oh, not here, sorry. I was looking after queen h5, rook a3, now rook a4. Yes.
So if you take
that's a big difference. Okay. So if I take it,
there was an in-between move knight h2 when queen was on g4.
Okay. Yes, so you cannot take it because of queen f3 with a lot of threats.
So if I take,
I think it's just checkmate, right?
Because I don't have rook e2.
We have queen b6 only move. Right. If rook e2, they will be made in one. Only way to defend this is queen b6. But this is beautiful. The only winning move here for black. We just sacrificed the rook.
Rook e6.
No, let's sacrifice a knight.
How do you plan to checkmate with one queen?
I think rook is coming.
Yes. So you're coming. The quiet move you're going to take on f4? Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I'm going to take on f4 and just I'm threatening two moves, right? Rook e6 or e5, and you can't defend from both.
So if I go queen c6?
And black has like white has 2-3 tempi before you get checkmated, but it's still going to be made.
And now you capture with the rook.
So you have I'm just picking everything up. This is incredible. So let's see. After queen h5, rook a3 looks like a risk, but I think it needs to be played. You just don't have to take on a4. Don't touch that rook, and maybe just double the rooks on the third rank.
Or can I play rook e3 instead of rook a3?
Here, right? Immediately rook e3. Yes, you can. I can go rook e6. I can play f5. Wow, if I saw my opponent playing f5, I would be terrified, especially with only 14 minutes on the clock.
There are so many options. So if e takes f5, you want to play e4?
e4, I believe, or simply queen f5 first.
We do get the feeling that white's pieces are disorganized, right? One rook there, second rook there, queen on c7.
All the way out there,
While black pieces, maybe even the f file, the knight on h3 is dangerous. Maybe the pawn can go in the center e4 and just put more pressure.
So basically,
we're currently in this position. Nino needs to play queen h5. Very strong move.
So one of the main ideas in order to continue the attack in this position is to open the f file.
Yes.
So let's say we are not mating, then to open the f file is going to be decisive in many positions.
Yes, with the king on f1 and weak pawn on f2. Yes, black has very strong. It's not immediate checkmate, like you said, but very strong attack.
It assures us a long-term initiative, of course.
And one more idea: if I go queen d7
in this position.
Yes. I know I'm going to lose a pawn, but is it that bad? If you capture on f3 with your queen, I take your knight.
Yeah, that's possible, but if I want to keep attacking your king, I'd rather start with knight f4, so that if you take queen f3, then your king is just terrible, right? So here you have to play knight h4, but then you're not threatening to take my knight. And this is interesting. I could go knight e6 and reroute my knight, or continue with my old idea and plan and just play rook e6.
Oh, this looks beautiful for black.
Yeah, and if you like dynamic play and attacking, this is a dream come true. Yeah, Nino, and this would be her first win, because she started with a loss against Alice, then she drew yesterday, and today playing another American with the black pieces, so she's looking for her first win.
Wow, so maybe let's take a look at the next game, Bibisara Assaubayeva against Tang Zhongyi. Where did we finish? Because they're also, I think they went the way we were discussing as well, or you, Almira, were suggesting.
Yes, in order once again to prevent white from playing a4, I thought that rook c4 was absolutely necessary to maintain the balance, and that was exactly the move that Tang Zhongyi played. So rook c4, rook b5, attacking the d5 pawn, of course, for the moment, and not allowing the rook d8 to activate itself. So rook a4, a3, she decided to play. Okay, you cannot take, of course, immediately, because this rook is not protected, and you can play rook a1, winning this bishop, or winning the exchange if you take on b2. Okay, we'll just...
Kind of a nice pin, unexpected.
Exactly. So a3 was Bibisara's idea, but then why did she play rook b5? I'm still trying to figure this out. Okay, so let's see. Rook d6, rook e8, king f7, rook c8.
It's somewhat surprising that black allowed the rook to be this active.
I don't understand why the
if we move back a
didn't
little
start
bit,
with king f7.
Because rook d6 really just invites the white rook to go to the back rank.
So what was the problem with the move king f7 here? Katerina, do you see the immediate refutation?
Actually, we were discussing this during the break with Dariush, and we had the same question.
Ah, okay.
King f7 was a very natural and best move.
Okay, you know, sometimes it could happen that you are looking at king f7 and something, and then rook d6, and then when it's your turn, you just forget to play the king f7.
So you play the second move.
The second move that you had in your mind.
Okay.
And let's check in with Yasser. Yasser, over to you.
Loving the conversation, loving the analysis, some great stuff going on, especially in that game of Humpy. I had been looking at some really, I want to say long forcing lines, and I think Humpy missed an opportunity. I want to go back to the game of Alice Lee, our tournament leader, and trying to fully understand what was going on. I was of the opinion that Alice was feeling uncomfortable, that she had been taking a lot of time on her clock. Piece is a little bit disharmonious, especially this bishop on b2. And I was trying to understand queen h4, I had mentioned it earlier, f2, f3, rook d8, rook c1, and we were getting in a position that after queen e7, black was more comfortable. Nana took a very direct route with the move b5. And Alice was looking for a bailout variation, like just let me get out of here. I don't like my position that much, and she found it. That was the drawback of the move b5, is it does allow what Alice played. What Alice did was capture on b5, and everybody will play bishop takes e4. If there's anything in this position for black, it starts with the move rook c2. Very hard move to calculate. The problem is, everything on the first rank is hanging. I just want to play bishop c6 and say to your queen is overloaded. You want to defend e2, you want to defend b2. Rook c2 was black's best chance for an advantage. She played the move bishop takes e4, and by a very consequent series of moves, Alice has bailed out now into, something very, very, very close to triple zeros. In fact, she could have just captured, and the engine says triple zeros. So a little bit of a save. I don't mean to be hyperbolic about it. I think Alice was okay through most of the game, but definitely, in my opinion, a bit of a save for our tournament leaders. Back to you in studio.
Thank you, Yasser. Yes, we were a little bit worried about Alice's position, but you are right. She just found a really good continuation to balance it out.
Shows
Almira,
real mastery, by the way, because you need to feel this moment where you just have to continue to play the game, but being cautious, and then if the occasion will present itself, to trade a few pieces and to maintain the equality, because being the leader 2.5 out of 3 is also
there's a lot of pressure on you, right?
Yes, it's a lot of pressure. So, and you maintain your lead because Nana has only 1 point, and there are only a few players that can catch Alice, and those are Harika, yes, Humpy, and Alina. So we have to watch their games closely because this one is steering towards the drawish waters.
So maybe let's take a look at the game of Harika Dronavalli and Mariya Muzychuk, because we do have some developments there.
No, this I just wanted to see Humpy
or Humpy Koneru, because they are going the line that we were actually analyzing with Nasi. So we may see this, this series of bishop g4, rook take h6, exclamation point, king d5, and just a big mess on the board.
Of course, rook h5 was played. I'm absolutely amazed. So let's have a look at Harika Dronavalli and Mariya Muzychuk. That was our analysis. However, after c takes d4, Mariya did play bishop d4, and bishop c3 was played. So,
which makes a big sense, right? You want to trade that dark square bishop, which can be strong in the defense.
And once again, this is still a threat. And the thing is, I feel that if white will manage to establish the rook on s6, white is going to be better. So let's have a look. Bishop queen f7, bishop d4, knight d4, queen d3, knight f5 is the only move because the knight has no square.
Rook c1, a very natural move. You just develop the rook on an open file. It feels more comfortable for white. How do you assess this? This position, Almira?
Okay. I feel that white is pressuring. f6, g6 pawns are a bit weak for the moment, and this knight on e4 is very powerful if you compare it to the knight on e5, which is more like defending the position for them.
Also,
but you have
this pawn, right, on d5 is kind of guarding that important square you talked about.
But exactly, but the thing is that how do you bring your rook to e6? For the moment, she's trying to pressure the c7 pawn, so maybe she wants to double herself. But what
also, we need to emphasize that white is a pawn down, right? White sacrifices the pawn for this advantage of having really good pieces. But if you start trading or if you don't kind of create anything with your pieces, well, you are pawn down, and that endgame is not going to be comfortable.
Katerina, I saw something. So, like, if you make a very natural move here, there might be something. So, if I play queen b5 attacking here, let's say, and if you make the natural move, so I guess this is winning, yes?
Yes, that's a very nice tactic.
So
discover attack because there's just so much pressure on that rook on e8.
So queen b5 might get this pawn back. Maybe we should leave it there, but then if I will take on b7, attacking simultaneously a lot of pieces. So
the thing is, this pawn on f6 is just like you regret pushing this pawn to g6. You would love to just move it back to keep protecting this pawn.
But can I sacrifice? Okay, I wanted to try rook e5 here, and if you take on b7, I just wanted to play rook e8. You can simply play f3 probably, and then
f3.
Yes,
I want to defend that knight.
Yes, and then okay, I can take on d5. I have no idea what is happening. I think that
well, you cannot take on d5. I think
not yet. Not yet.
Always that knight f6 is such a threat.
Yes, I wanted to play rook e7. Like, let's see, and then like this is also.
Okay, I will give you a check. Queen a8 check.
Queen a8 check. King g7 protecting, and
I capture on a5.
And now I can take on d5. That's what I was meaning. That at some point I will take on d5. And what is happening here?
And now material is balanced. Maybe queen c3. I really like my pawn on a4.
Okay,
I feel that pawn is going to be dangerous.
Yeah. Nazi, you know something?
Well, in this game, Engine slightly prefers black.
Oh, okay.
Really prefers black?
Just tiny bit, yes. You know, Engines are materialistic, so the extra pawn counts for a lot. But I have this game between Carissa and Nino, and we do have some development. So last we looked at it, we were expecting queen h5, which was a very strong move. But Nino chose rook e6, a very logical move as well. When you're attacking, bring as many pieces as you can into the attack. Turns out here, Carissa can ignore everything and just take another pawn, but she was a little bit more cautious and played rook a3, move we've been looking at in many different lines. Rook f6 now, queen d7, and now queen h5 was played. King g2, best move in the position. And I have a question for you. What do you think about knight takes f2?
And queen h2 then?
Yes.
Okay.
And what do you think the evaluation would be?
Well, if you ask this question, it means that the evaluation is triple zeros.
Of course. That's always the answer.
I mean,
but
you know,
that is
I look at it from a different perspective, right? White wants to play rook h1.
Exactly.
Also,
so
that's
you kind
like
of
a very
have to do that, right? You only have two options to not walk into rook h1. Either you sacrifice or you go back knight g5.
But then still rook h1.
Exactly. It's playable, but still rook h1. Now only move is queen g6.
Knight h4.
Knight h4, e4 is hanging with the
is
check.
hanging,
But you can
so we
trade
have to
here,
take-
then just play rook e3, and you do still have an extra pawn, right?
Yes, and...
Or materially, it's even, I
No,
can't
it's equal
count
because I
anymore.
lost on h2 the pawn.
Right, I did. But b6 is
H3,
still weak, and
actually.
on the queen side, I'm still better. And if on the king side, I'm not afraid of checkmate anymore, then white should be better. So instead, let's take a look at knight f2, which we might see now after king f2, queen h2 check. Now, only correct move is king f1. King e3 just loses.
Really?
Queen takes
queen
b2.
b2.
Right, your rook's under attack. Do you
Okay,
play
rook d3.
Rook d3. Now I go queen g2, attacking the knight. How do you defend?
Queen
That's
g4.
beautiful. If you play queen g4, you do not expect this move by the Kolchow or rook f4. You know,
Wow.
You can play queen h5, but I simply pick this up and I have a long-term attack again. Even though I already have enough material as well, 3 pawns for the knight, I'm also not going to stop the attack anytime soon. Threatening rook f3 also already. The other rook hasn't even come in yet. It's about to come in with rook
But
f4.
rook f4, what a move.
It's beautiful, right? And if you don't play queen g4, everything is losing. It's -5. So king e3 would lose for Carissa. She needs to play king f1. And after this, Nino can... First of all, I believe there is queen h1 and repetition exists, but she can test Carissa a little bit, take on b2. Best move here is rook e to e3, not the most natural. And Nino has perpetual anytime she wants it, just like this. So we might see a quick draw, or if Carissa goes to e3 and doesn't understand the danger in the position, then she might go down.
What if I don't go rook e3? Because that's a move not very natural. I understand we are defending the knight and the rook on a3, but if I just move back, let's say rook a e3, is it worse now?
It is slightly worse after simply queen h2. Even this is hard to evaluate because, again, black doesn't have concrete threats. We're just playing on compensation.
But what to do with white,
exactly,
right?
I also don't have any... My pieces can't move. And targets. If I move the queen now, I hang the a4 pawn, so I didn't want to do that. But looks like queen g4 is the only move. Otherwise, it's more than -1. And if nothing else, there's still this perpetual. Because if you start running, you lose immediately after rook a4. Guess what? My queen and other rook are now attacking your king.
I think it's the most important factor here is Carissa's time. She's down to 12 minutes, so if Nino, well, she's forced to sacrifice. Yes.
And they still have 11 moves to go until move 40. So 11 moves in 12 minutes. Not easy. However, after knight f2, a lot of moves are forced. So she might make time to control. Yeah. And she needs it to save this game.
Yeah. Let's check in now with Alice Lee and her game. What are the developments? We saw a lot of trades or upcoming trades happening.
So this is the current position.
So if we can go back, I think knight f5 was the last move we were looking at, putting pressure on that pinned bishop.
Knight f4 attacking the bishop on d5. I think that Nana made a very, very good move, queen b6. Then exchanging the queens and getting rid of that pin. Then Alice decided to take the bishop, rook d5. It's interesting. I was not sure. Maybe it was more interesting to take with the bishop, but probably in this position it doesn't really matter because she wants to bring her rook to d7. So let's have a look at how the game continued. So rook a8, directly attacking the pawn on a3. So now Alice can take on c6. Yes.
Nana first takes on a3.
Nana takes on a3. Yes, we take on c6. Rook a2, rook b6, and this is a drawn rook endgame, of course, because neither of the sides.
You know, for a second, I thought it maybe Alice with the knight against a bishop can try for something, but it's clear she wants to go.
Very sorry to interrupt, but Carissa made this blunder we just talked about. King e3 on the board. Now Nino is winning after queen takes b2, and she played it fast. Carissa did not take any time. She rushed into this, and after queen b2, no matter where the rook goes, queen g2, and black is completely winning. It's game over, -4. Now, does Nino see this?
The thing is, it's about that move, I think, rook f4. Because you see here queen g4, and the question is, like, if you don't see rook f4, but it looks like maybe more moves are winning?
Rook f4 is gorgeous, and you should play it, but h5, rook a4, everything is winning in this position. King should not be on e3. I think she didn't sense the danger and walked right into this combination. King e3, absolutely terrible move. And we just talked about her time. She still had 13 minutes. She could have taken her time.
But king f1 is a move that, I mean, you are walking away from that pin knight. It's also not a very natural move to make.
Yes, but I think that it's not easy to make that such moves, you know, leaving your king on f1.
Now, question is queen b2 the easiest move to make? Because you do have some other options. Nino could try queen g2, which is also good, but not as good as queen b2. Because here difference is if you go rook f4, I go queen h5. It's not as winning.
I mean, if I can, I'm a pawn grabber, and queen takes b2 is with the tempo on the rook.
Of course. I'm with you there. So she could still play this and without rook f4 play rook g6, queen f5, and then queen b2. This is also playable. But queen b2, I mean, your hand makes this automatically, right? What else can Carissa do besides rook d3? She can play rook a1, but I mean, removing one of the defenders from the king, it's so unnatural. I wouldn't even consider anything else besides rook d3.
Oh, because black's moves are very natural. Once again, queen b2 and queen g2.
Yeah,
back.
and let's just think about this was so close to being a draw after king f1. We saw that in all the lines, best black could do was give perpetual. And here, all of a sudden, this is a gift for Nino, absolute gift.
But Nino is taking now time, so she maybe is... Well, she has 25 minutes, so there's really no reason to rush. When you are feeling that maybe you are starting to grab the advantage, you do want to be precise.
Yes, and you have to weigh all the options, of course. So she smells blood. You know, she knows that the win is somewhere. Okay, now it's the matter of precise calculation.
And in this tournament, you don't get gifts often. So when you do, you have to make sure you take advantage of it. Yes. She's about to make a move, so let's stay with them. Well, I think she knows. But she's just double and triple checking.
So will she find that move, or will she decide to play that move, queen takes b2? Because it's for sure a move you consider. It's a free pawn. Everybody wants free stuff.
Yeah, but there are 2 free pawns. There is a pawn on g3.
That's true.
So both pawns are very appealing, delicious pawns.
Funny enough, queen g3 is not winning that much anymore.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So maybe Nino is looking at this pawn as well. She's hesitating.
I think she's calming herself down because king e3 threw her. She didn't expect this move. She was probably mentally prepared for that draw after king f1.
By the way, on a completely different matter, since you mentioned the green color, did you know that the green is the color which shouldn't be offered or worn by actors because it's considered to be bad luck? So
didn't know that.
It's like some ancient tradition. So I was thinking that everyone and our players are actors in their own way, gladiators, Amazons.
Let's have a look at the sequence of the moves that caused this blunder.
So this was the position.
I think we have a video, so let's just take a look.
Yes.
So capturing that pawn, knight captures f2. Sacrificing a knight to damage kind of the pawn structure, the safety of the white king. You have to capture the pawn.
Queen h2 check.
And after this...
Taking the advantage of the fact that the knight is pinned, of course. So.
Cannot capture the queen, the knight is pinned. And now, big move. Oh, immediately playing king e3, which is the big mistake. Not even taking seconds to write down the move queen h2 check. Carissa already decided to play that.
You know what?
King
Now
E3.
I'm thinking Carissa thought king f1 was losing too. Because the way she played it, you can see on her face, she thinks she's lost either way.
Yeah, it's very possible. It's uncomfortable position, right? I wouldn't like to be deciding between these two moves either.
But at the same time, just let's have a look. So if you play king f1, what are black's options?
So capture on b2, capture on g3.
No. I think I know. Maybe she thought that, you know, at some point, you know, black would be able to take on a4, but for the moment, the queen is protecting this pawn, so you cannot deflect the rook. So what are the options for black? Which other piece can you bring into attack? Can you play g5?
So we can start with capturing the pawn on b2, right?
Yes, after king f1, so queen b2. Yes?
Queen b2 was the best move. You could also just make a draw with queen h1.
But if you play, yes, if you're not making a draw, because...
Queen b2 and we can double the rooks on the third rank, rook e3.
So that's the important move, which I don't think it's that easy to find, rook 1 to e3.
And now you're simply checking, yes? Or...
Yes, and...
Can I go king g2, king h3 here? 1 second. It was just a question. Let's say you're king g2.
Queen c2.
Queen c2, king h3.
I mean, maybe I just take on c4 and again I have 3 pawns for the knight and continue playing. And it was giving triple zeros, not necessarily because of a perpetual check.
Oh, but then yes, you don't have a perpetual, so maybe...
Well, queen f1 is still a threat.
But
So
also g5, I'm starting to worry about the white king.
yeah, the king's still not safe even on h3.
Because you have extra knight on f3, but where is that knight going? It cannot go anywhere.
Yeah, I agree with you. And this pawn is about to fall if I move my rook to d3. So.
You know, I was about to make a move again, but she's hesitating. I think she still can't believe what an opportunity she just got. She wants to make sure she's not missing anything.
Okay, but white is not lost here by any means.
Yeah, of course.
But it's not a comfortable situation or position to have when you have 30 minutes on clock.
Right, but walking right into king e3 is just
course,
admitting that I am lost here.
So you have to find this move, rook e3. Well, however, the position on the board is completely different. Carissa has played king e3 here, and this position is completely lost. So after queen b2, the computer considers that this position is completely lost.
Wow, she's capturing pawn on
she took
g3.
the wrong pawn. She
Not
took
the pawn on
wrong
b2.
pawn. Now it's not even -1. It's less than -0.3.
It's
Incredible.
really a big missed opportunity. So how to now keep defending for Carissa?
She has only moves, but they're kind of obvious, right?
Rook f1, we have to defend the knight.
But you said that this was one of her weaknesses. She doesn't like to defend. So
that's true.
In some point, at some moment, I thought that she simply abandoned this idea that she might win this game, and she's just playing a continue resistance.
So if I give check now, queen f4 check, targeting the king, I believe you have to go to d3.
After queen f4, king d3, it's +2.
+2.
You have to be careful. You can't allow white king to run. So
because that's actually the idea that if we can just see queen f4, king d3, if black decides to go back, queen g3, now I can go actually maybe king c2.
King e2
no,
is also...
king c2 still can do because there's
queen g2.
Queen g2.
King e2 is great. Now
so
if you give me a check,
rook f2.
Exactly, I cover.
Okay, so that's how you defend.
So after rook f1, if Nino still wants to play for a win, she has to play rook f4. That's the best move.
And Carissa played rook f1, by the way. So let's update our. Let's update our position. So rook f1 is on the board, and
Carissa is back in the game.
Absolutely, rook f4 is the best move, which is not an obvious move at all. She can take on f3 and make perpetual, but I don't think she wants to make a draw. Right?
Can I start running with pawn like h5, h4?
You don't want to play rook f4?
But king e2 and white still +2. But let's check in with Yasser and hear his thoughts.
Thank you. Yes, in these high-stakes tournaments where every half a point is crucial, big blunders can be expected. Big pressure, big miss. I agree with you wholeheartedly. Queen takes b2. Carissa's back in the game, and I'm sitting there thinking to myself, if I were white, I would still be frightened by the move rook f4. And you Nasi, were discussing the move rook f4, and I was thinking, well, what does that do? What is black's threats? I mean, suppose I just went b4, a5. The idea behind rook f4 is to play the move rook f8, followed by f5, and it's all about the pinned knight. So I'm a pawn grabber, right? I mean, let me grab this pawn. And go ahead, play rook f8, and I'll grab another pawn. Let's go, let's go. And then the computer just goes rook takes, check, and I was crying. Oh no, I lose my queen. So the idea behind rook f4 is it's a slow positional move where you just say to white, if you try to play, for example, b4, the computer immediately just jumps on the evaluation. It says, look, I'm going to play rook f8, I'm going to play f4. Carissa's not out of the woods. Queen takes b2, great move. Queen takes g3, doesn't throw it away, and still Carissa on the back foot. Back to you in studio.
Thank you, Yasser. Carissa is holding on. She's hanging on there. And I wanted to say that this game might as well decide, her fate in the tournament, because she started with the black pieces, 2 games. She lost the first one. She made the draw. And then, when the tournament starts in such a difficult manner, so you have to fight for your own trajectory. So if she loses the game, then it will be very difficult. I feel that every game is going to be a test and a challenge. It is already.
Absolutely, especially you need that win, right? Carissa is known that once she starts winning, she doesn't stop, but she needs to start. So she's looking for that break.
So you need a little bit of luck, of course, and well, the tension is palpable, and you can cut it with a knight. Here I am. So
while we're waiting on this game, on Nino's move, I can give you some updates in other games. One of the biggest disappointments today is that in this position we didn't see King D5 and the possible march all the way to F2. Here Alina instead played King B7, which got a question mark, and now Humpy is slightly better. She does have that extra pawn on the queen side, and of course it's still double-edged position. White King is not super safe, but it's White now who's playing for a win. So yeah, she, of course,
it looks dangerous to go to D5, but after our analysis, we wanted to see that the king being active and trying to checkmate the white king.
If she could see that there was E3 and king coming to F3, she would have done this. But yes, of course, this looks scary. So this is where they're standing, and Alice and Nana about to be a draw. I think we will see a handshake very shortly, or not.
Nazi, I have a question about this position. So if you move back to... But let's take a look at the standings, because we do have 3 players who are tied for a second place, and one of them wants to win to catch up to Alice Lee to even start leading the tournament, and it's Humpy Koneru, Harika Dronavalli, and Alina Kashlinskaya.
And we should jump to Alice's game because they're about to shake hands. I think they found 3-move repetition. They're repeating now, so yeah. And Alice should be quite happy she survived in this game. She was worse most of the game, but defended very well.
So they're repeating the moves right now.
So King G1, Rook A1, King H2.
Can Nana play G5, G4 here?
I think neither of them are eager to call the arbiter, so they're just repeating for the 4th time now.
But it felt like this time Alice is happy that she survived that game, although she had no troubles in the opening. Later, maybe in the mid game, was Nana pushing with that nice B5 move. And here we have it. 3-fold repetition and a draw.
Guys, guess what? Carissa's winning now.
What?
Yeah, Nino missed her opportunities, and now Carissa's much better.
This is incredible. What happened?
So Nino went for G5, yes?
Yes, so of course the biggest mistake was starting with Queen G3, and then followed up with, she didn't play Rook F4 or Rook F3, she played G5. She just wants to continue the attack, but it's a bit too slow because after King E2, that Rook on A3 is now very helpful. White has defended the F3 very well. If you play G4, guess what? Rook G1 wins the game, because if you take here with a check, after King F1...
King F1, wow, defending the rook.
Beautiful tactic. This could be what Nino missed. And she has played G4. That is definitely what she missed. Oh, she'll be so disappointed.
So Rook G1 is winning the
Rook
game
G1
on the
just
spot.
wins the game. It's +5.
And if you don't have Rook G1, is it lost?
She played it already.
Yes,
Carissa
wow.
knows this.
Just seeing the best moves.
She's a very tactical player. Wow. It's such turnaround in this game in the last 5 minutes.
Wow, and Carissa is going to get that lucky break. She's going to get her first win.
I think we should just zoom in on the players to see the reactions, because Nino hasn't seen it yet, I think. Or maybe she just noticed that after G takes F, she's losing her queen.
It might be this green
I think
color.
she just noticed it now, because she's looking at that file, the king and the queen.
We all know how terrible that feels when you realize you just made a huge blunder. And instead of winning, you have to resign.
And the problem is you cannot go anywhere with the queen, or you can go to H3, but you're going to lose that pawn, because that pawn is also attacked by the queen and the rook. And then white does have an extra piece.
Yeah, that's it. This is just game over.
Wow.
I just noticed she's shaking her head, yeah.
She's just realizing that this King F1 move, guarding the rook, this is a skewer, and that's the end of the game. So quickly, this game, if you are just coming to see it, it started kind of with Italian, but Carissa was trying to push for some advantage. She started on the queen side, pieces were exchanging, nothing that interesting happening, but then suddenly we started showing how Nino started to attack with the knight and trying to attack on the king side. Carissa was trying to exchange queens, and I think this is going to be the important moment when Carissa risks. Queen takes c7. It's a very risky decision, allowing Nino to play queen g6 to attack this pawn on g2. And after g3, knight captures. Now we have few more moves, and you see that it's black who is starting to attack on the king. Now queen d7, and now this move. Knight takes f2, very strong move. King captures, followed by queen h2. And now Carissa had to play king f1 to keep balance in the position and try to survive. Instead, she played king e3, a big, big blunder. And here, Nino could have captured on b2 all the way here, and she's keeping a big advantage. She still needs to transfer it into a full win, but it is big advantage. Instead, she blunders also and goes queen takes g3. Rook f1, and one blunder follows another, g5, big mistake. And after king e2, it is actually Carissa who is winning. And third blunder follows, after which rook g1, the game is over. And Carissa is winning this game.
And Nina knows it now. Carissa is about to win. She missed that after g takes f3, king f1 protects the rook on g1, and the queen is pinned. I was talking about the tournament's trajectory and a bit of luck. Miracles do happen, even on the chessboard.
And we have it on the board. King f1 happened, and there's just nothing Nino can do.
This is so heartbreaking for Nino. I mean, she was so close to winning, and then cold shower, seeing this move, king f1. Oof, chess is tough.
Chess is hard.
I mean, you have to probably take the rook. You can push f2, king moves to f1, and that's it. Even this rook is going to join the attack. I mean, this is just completely winning.
If only you could play rook g8 here. Then black is winning, yes.
If black had a chance to go rook g8 and rook g1, things would be different. But no, this is going to be the first win for Carissa Yip.
And I think Carissa can't believe it herself. Such a dramatic turn of events.
We were just saying this would be first win for Nino, like 5 minutes ago. Yeah, absolutely crazy game. Do we think she's going to resign, or because I do have updates in another games?
I think she's going to resign.
She's about to. She takes on g1. She's going to make a few moves.
Maybe king h7, trying to bring the other rook to g8. She played f2 right away, king f1, and if black rook was...
Okay, king h7, going for that idea, rook to g8 and rook to g1, but we can expect now Carissa to go rook to g3.
She played queen d7 instantly. No, never mind. I was looking at the wrong position.
Yes,
or actually queen e7 can happen as well. Just say, okay, rook, where do you go?
On f4.
So queen h3 with the idea of rook g3 is very good, yeah.
Going here.
But yeah, immediately rook g3, and that's it.
It's the most natural. You are just guarding that file. And you may be also thinking about queen g4 and queen g7 checkmate.
Wow. Unreal.
Chess is brutal. You play a great game, and then you just miss 1 or 2 moves, and that's it.
And it's even worse when you don't realize that you missed it. You still think you're about to win, and then the last move you realize, and this whole life flashes in front of your eyes. It's the worst feeling for a chess player. But on the other hand, Carissa's feeling great.
Carissa is happy. She's like, you need that lucky break sometimes, and this is it. Now maybe we can go queen g4 first. Force this rook to go to g6. Yeah. And I think it is on the board.
And then you can go queen f5 and finish the game.
Because you have to go rook g6, the only move to prevent that checkmate. Queen f5, I'm threatening to capture here, and then I can capture here anytime I want, or even this pawn on b5.
By the way, we did have a draw between Alice and Nana. The game already ended. Oh yeah, we are watching this.
Well.
So yeah, they are following this line.
Nazi, are you watching
Queen
our show? It's like, I heard the
and we have a handshake.
Yes,
congratulations to Carissa Yip, her first win, her first white pieces in the event, and she got that important win.
Maybe it's better if Nino doesn't check this game with the engine. So it's going to be very hard to recover from this loss. Yeah. Well, I have an update in Bibisara's game now. She is winning against Zhongyi.
Wow.
Earlier, we criticized Tan for not playing King F7 on time. And Engine said it was still okay, but for us, it seemed so unnatural not to play King F7. And just because she allowed White Rook to get to E8, now here we are in this position. By the way, notice how on move 39, Bibisara played very accurately, and after Rook C6, here Tang had to play B5, very accurate move, but she took on A4 and move 40, D5, and now White is much better. So Bibisara is playing very well in time trouble. Bishop C5 followed. Last move before the time control was the mistake, which is often the case. Here they repeated once or twice. Wow, that's surprising. I think.
Well, this can be third round repetition.
Tang can claim now. That is so strange because if you look at this position, White is much better after Rook takes F6. White's playing for a win here. So I guess Bibisara didn't evaluate the position correctly after King E7. There is
play
F4.
Bishop B5.
Bishop
maybe,
B5 is very strong.
Yes.
Oh yes, I mean White's not risking much, right?
I'm trying to understand why the computer is so categorical. So after Rook A2, how do you continue?
Maybe check on E6.
Okay, the check, and then where?
You have to go.
Why not on D7?
Like okay, let's say King
Rook
D7.
H6.
Rook H6,
and they are discussing it, so it looks like
a draw.
They're claiming.
No, but then you do not hit the clock. Then okay, yeah. So you're stopping the clock. Bibisara is happy with the draw, although she is having much better position and chances to play for a win. Maybe her evaluation of this position is, you know what? I wanna draw. That is safe.
That's strange, right?
And deputy arbiter Anastasia Sorokina was there.
Well, Tan is looking puzzled because I think
she
knows what is the evaluation of the position, but it might be that Bibisara didn't sleep well.
Sure. All these ladies are jet-lagged, except for the American players. She just didn't evaluate it correctly, and she thought she had nothing better than a draw.
Because sometimes when you have one pawn going forward, the king can be stopping it. So maybe she was worried that Tang Zhongyi had the 2 pawns on the queen side, maybe ready to march forward. And Yasser is with Alice Lee. Yasser, over to you.
Thank you. Just watching the finish, wow, Carissa, she really got a big gift, and maybe Tan did as well, our defending champion. But I am with our tournament leader, Alice. Tell us what happened today.
I think the opening, I was quite suspicious of the line she played, but somehow I wasn't able to find an advantage, and it became from some suspicious position into sort of like a Grunfeld structure.
Precisely.
She's not normally a Grunfeld player, so I thought maybe she would not be so familiar with the positions. But I don't think I played it completely accurately, and eventually it just liquidated with all the pawn exchanges in the center.
Well, exactly. The move Queen takes B5 was a little bit of a bailout because it goes. But my question for you was, you got into. Well, you had used a lot of your clock when you had played Queen D3 and your bishop was on B2. Were you feeling comfortable at that moment before she played B5? For example, she could have played Queen H4.
Yeah, I didn't I feel like the engine should give some slight plus for White, but I didn't really like the position so much because I didn't have much time, and second, even though I have a nice center, I wasn't really sure what my plan was.
Right.
Eventually, I should probably break in the center at some point, but when she played B5, and then I saw that I will get D5 in, I just went for that.
Exactly. You're suffering and trying to find an advantage. I was doing the same thing. I mean, the engine actually liked her position, even after before B5 with the move Queen H4. And I was trying to figure out how do you get in some kind of center break, and it was really, really difficult. Nonetheless, 2.5 out of 3 for you. Feeling good about your position in the tournament, I mean?
Yeah, I mean, tomorrow I'm black versus tan, so it's...
Ooh, a big challenge.
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm happy with my results so far, of course, but, you know, I'll have to focus on the next games.
How did you do with her last year?
Oh, I lost as white. She played actually, I think, a very similar opening to what Nana played in this game with, like, knight f6, b6. But yeah, I think I responded a bit differently.
Exactly. Well, big game tomorrow. I'll let you get to it. I mean, play well. Keep it up. Okay. Back to you in studio.
Thank you, Yasser, and congratulations, Alice. Good job so far. Keep up the good work. And we have a result. So Alina Kashlinskaya made a draw with Humpy Koneru.
So she managed to defend this position. She found a few good moves, you know, to...
There's another 3-move repetition, yes, they found it. It's opposite color bishop. So we only have one game left. And that's Harika Dronavalli against Mariya Muzychuk. We actually haven't checked this game in a while, right?
Yes, the ladies are slowing down, by the way. Yes, because we were not sure about how to evaluate the position. We checked it with the Katerina and we stopped here, you know, because I was trying to find a few tactical resources, but Harika decided to bring back the knight, you know, because she thought that if black doubles, you know, the rooks on the e file, so she decided to play knight c3, and she redeployed it on b5, attacking the c7 pawn.
Right, and after that position became equal, instead of knight c3, she had a chance to play something like
show us.
Queen b5.
That was the move we were analyzing because we liked to keep the knight in the center to target f6 pawn.
Yeah, Queen b5, provoking b6, right? And then you can even go farther with Queen c6, force a move like Rook c8, which is kind of an ugly move. You want to play Rook f7, but you can't. So Rook c8 would happen, and here, now we can go Knight c3, Knight b5. It's a better version because you improve the position first. Yeah, you can see how black feels pressure here. I mean, still objectively, black is fine, but white's for choice. Instead, after she played Knight c3, now after Rook e8, it's just triple zeros. There's nothing for white here. Knight b5, takes, Queen d7. And Mariya started to play very well after this. Rook c1, c6, also well timed. Check, King g7. Pawns, finally white got the pawn back, but this is an equal endgame right now. And yeah, black can play Rook b4, Rook c3, and position's very equal. But we have Yasser with Carissa.
Indeed. Carissa, what to say? You got gifted today. Tell us what happened from your point of view.
Yeah, so I played a very modest opening. But at some point, things got quite sharp, I think, when she was throwing her knights on f4, and I missed something there. I missed like this. I missed after Queen g6, g3, knight takes h3, king g2, knight can go back to f4 instead of like queen h5 or something.
Right.
So I had to go for this king f1, and yeah, she found this very nice like knight takes f2, which I thought I should be able to defend.
Right.
But after king e3, I think I was a little worried about like queen takes b2.
Right. So far,
yeah,
so
like,
good.
There are ideas of like queen takes b2. If I move my rook, then she can go like queen g2. I would have to play queen g4, and then a4 falls as well.
You're checking all the right boxes. This is all good.
Yeah, I mean, there's also like, I feel immediate queen g2, queen g4, queen takes b2, but definitely, I definitely didn't feel that king f1 was very safe, though. I think I underestimated queen takes b2, and I only started really thinking about it once the position was on the board. Yeah, I guess after king f1, it just felt, you know, my king is still clustered in on the king side, and, you know, maybe I would want it to run at some point. But then she went for this, like, g5, g4, which I actually saw, like, in advance. And it was basically my one trick in the position. Like, my idea is to, after queen takes g3, like, rook f1, king e2, rook g1, and sort of solidify a little bit.
Precisely.
Yeah, and then g5, g4 just kind of runs straight into that plan and grants me the queen as well. So
hasn't started well for you. You did get the the double black. That's always kind of like a little bit awkward. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling good. I kind of like that I get the double black out of the way. Definitely a little disappointed with, for example, my first round game, which I felt I should have held, but it's just it was a very long game, and Harika played well, and she found like every
breakthrough,
every try.
Right.
And yeah, and then the pressure just got to me. So I was a little disappointed in that game because I've been, defending for so long for that half point, only for it to just slip through my fingers.
Right.
But I'm feeling better with this win.
Yes.
For sure, I think luck comes and goes a little bit. So.
Well, let's hope with this victory you right the ship, and good luck for the rest of the tournament.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely, Carissa. Hope to interview you again real soon.
Hope so as well.
Okay, back to you in studio.
Thank you, Yasser. Carissa Yip scores her first victory. We all need a little bit of luck, Katerina. So tomorrow she starts a completely new tournament.
Yeah.
So
she said 50%.
3, yes, and 6 games to follow. I love how poised she is. Also, Alice before. They're so poised, so calm. They rationally analyze the games, and obviously I probably missed something, but that's the struggle. Yes.
But she was very correct with the line she analyzed, right? She saw after King E3, maybe Queen takes B2, Queen G2, she is in some trouble. But as she said, she didn't feel safe with that King F1 move, which was actually the best move. But at the end, it worked for her, because with King F1, probably there was at least a draw for Black. With King E3, she managed to win the game. So.
1 second. Let's have a look.
So here we are in the last remaining game, Harika Dronavalli against Mariya Muzychuk, which started kind of crazy, extremely unexpected. We had 4 knights, which is nothing crazy. That's a normal opening when we look at this. But now Harika prepared this A4 move, which I've never seen before in this game, in my life actually. I've seen A3 that's been played before, but never A4. But Mariya just continued developing. Harika continued with its strange bishop d3. Again, something we don't like to do is to block this pawn so this bishop cannot develop. But she was prepared. And apparently this is the way you play, because this bishop is doing one good thing. It's defending this pawn so the knight can jump into the center. And as we will see, suddenly this bishop finds its position here hidden and ready to support this pawn going forward and still looking at the king side. So Mariya here decided to capture the knight, which is what even Yasser said, the best move in the position. But as you can see, Harika here started to attack with knight g5, looking at this h7 square together with the bishop, maybe something with the queen. It was clear that she was trying to push in this game and taking advantage of Mariya's start in this tournament, which was 2-0. But Mariya was continuing with best moves. And despite Harika trying, here it seemed that Mariya actually exchanged enough pieces to start to balance the position. Now we are getting into this moment, and here in this moment, Nazi was showing us how Queen b5 is probably the best move to try to fight for advantage, targeting this pawn, keeping this knight in the center, and targeting this pawn, and trying to maybe even put some pressure on the c file. And it's clear that white has some advantage, but not so clear how to go about converting it into a full point. And what Harika decided was to move the knight back to c3, but it looks like it allows black to exchange pieces, and Mariya here played perfectly despite being quite low on time, and it looks like this game is going into a draw.
Thank you, Katerina. What an impressive resume. It's like, it reminds me of your exams, it's like your philosophy, you have 4 hours, and a very difficult subject to deal with. Here, however, I think that they will exchange the knights, or she didn't want to exchange the knights. What is the position? Oh, yes, she did. Okay,
so we have a rook endgame.
The knight on d6. And
white to move, and this can be even forced because white can go here. Wait, no, that's an extra pawn.
No, you have to check now. You have to play rook b1, rook b2.
Check.
So let's see if you can go to d4, rook b3.
Oh, I don't want to do that
yes,
because
and
now
rook b2 once again.
even I can.
No, rook b4 you can play. No, you
okay,
can
so
play
maybe
rook
this
d4.
is going to be the way to go. So that is why we see that
No,
Mariya...
I thought that, yes, you're going to play rook d5. That's why I wanted you.
So Harika went rook d5 and Mariya still, going for the check. Harika king e2. We are expecting another check, rook b2 on the board. Now, if I go rook d2, are you going to trade?
No, but I can play rook b4.
Because this is maybe dangerous, right? This king is
I
fast.
want to play rook b4. Yes,
you want to go?
Yes, your move, of course, because...
I think they'll just repeat here, king f3, rook b3 check, and repeat.
It's possible.
Do you think Harika will try something?
I mean,
No,
we
you
know that
can't even
Harika
try.
tries, right? 6 hours with Carissa in the first round.
But there she
here-
actually had an advantage, right?
True.
Yeah. Here they're about to agree to a draw. And that is Mariya's first half point. She also starts a new tournament.
It's always good to break those zeros, get a half a point with black pieces, and tomorrow having white. And actually tomorrow she's going to play Carissa.
Whoa.
That's going to be a big match.
And the thing is, the most important is also to have the satisfaction of playing a good game. You know. She blundered a few things, in the first game, also in the second game. So it's not easy.
It was jet lag.
Calculate.
That's
But I feel that, she can be satisfied.
So is this the third time? I think she can claim now draw, right? I
Yeah,
think
I
she's
believe so.
checking too. You can see she's writing down the move. Now she needs to stop the clock, call the arbiter.
Sometimes arbiters are, they're already watching and they know it's a draw. So
And here
there
we
have
go.
it.
Draw between Harika Dronavalli and Mariya Muzychuk. First score for Mariya Muzychuk in the tournament.
So today we had only one decisive game.
Yeah,
Wow.
4
But we had so
draws.
many fighting games and it could have gone maybe 3 decisive games. But it was Carissa, one that we didn't expect to win after given her position. We didn't think she was going to be the one who wins, but wow.
She was taking risks. Nino was also taking risks, and then it turned into Carissa's favor.
We have Yasser with Alina Kashlinskaya.
Thank you. And Alina, a big test for you today. I know beforehand you don't match up well with Humpy, but you were telling me that recently you've improved your result. Tell us what happened today.
Well, of course, playing black against Humpy is a tough challenge. Yeah, let's put it like this. Well, I didn't expect the opening that happened, knight f3, g3. So I had to think what to do, but I prepared this line 2 days ago against Stan. But this line is very risky because you have to remember all the exact moves in the end game, and I wasn't sure if I'm able to remember all the moves. I think, but maybe I'm wrong, that bishop g4 was in my file, but maybe it was completely different position.
Right.
This happens a lot to me. But if I'm not mistaken, then there was an exclamation mark to this move.
Right.
So let's hope that that was the right move to play. But then I don't know. I mean, the end game, of course, is unpleasant for black. I have to defend, and in the very end, I think that Humpy could have played bishop f2 instead of rook e3, and I couldn't see how I don't know.
Fully equalize
yeah,
or something.
I think the position is that either I equalize or I lose. So yeah, after bishop f2, I couldn't see. We discussed a bit with Humpy that she thought I would play rook c8, but then she has, I think, rook e3 move or something like this, and my king is weak, maybe even weaker than hers. So
Exactly.
I don't know what was in the end.
Well, you'll be delighted to know we were thrilled with your ending, including the move bishop g4. And when she had played rook h5, we were expecting bishop g4, rook takes h6, king to d5. And the idea was that after bishop e5, to play e3. And king e4, king f3.
But can she play bishop c3 or any way you want to play e3?
Anyway, I want to play e3. And the king is coming, king e4.
Yeah, but even if you come, I just play rook f1 check, right?
Well, rook f2.
Rook f2. Yeah, you're right.
So, I mean, you know,
I didn't consider having king on c6. I just, there was no idea of putting him to f3. Yeah, but that's a nice one.
Yes, but a good general should be attacking, right?
Yeah.
You've started very well. How do you feel?
So far, good. I'm happy with how the games went. So let's see what happens next. I think I should renegotiate my deal with my mother because I made 2 tough draws, and I think my son deserves another point today.
Oh, very sweet. Surprising for you that Alice Lee, the lowest rated player in the tournament, has gotten off to such a good start?
Well, I think I have never played against Alice, but I saw some of her games, some of her performances, and of course she is very talented. So I think with especially youngsters, you should always expect the unexpected.
Exactly. Alina, thank you for joining us, and good luck for the rest of the tournament.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Back to you in studio.
Thank you, Yasser, and congratulations to Alina on a very nice game. And as you were saying, the king walk would be even more brilliant. But let's take a look at the standings. After round 3, it is still Alice Lee who is the sole leader of the event. She has 2.5 points, and then there is a 3-way tie for the second place. Humpy Koneru, Harika Dronavalli, and Alina Kashlinskaya with 2 points. And it's now Mariya Muzychuk with Nino Batsiashvili, who both have half a point, tying for the 9th place. Now, final thoughts, Nazi.
Well, I'm looking at this graph and I'm thinking who's playing who tomorrow. You know, it's very exciting. So Alice remains in the lead. That's amazing. Carissa, what a comeback. But Humpy and Harika also just half a point behind. And Alina, we just heard her. She's doing so well, right? To make a draw with black pieces against Humpy, I mean, huge achievement. So I can't wait to see what tomorrow brings. Yasser, some final thoughts from you?
Absolutely. For me, thank you. Absolutely. For me, this was a round of missed opportunities. Obviously, Carissa, that was a hot potato that got passed back and forth. But what about Bibi? That was really shocking that she didn't play rook takes f6 and play for the advantage. We just spoke with Alina, and the king march. That would have been amazing. A great round of fighting chess, as we've been seeing throughout, but also a round of missed opportunities. Back to you in the studio.
Thank you, Yasser. Yes, indeed, a lot of missed opportunities and kind of a quiet round based on the results, but not really on the chessboard. And let's take a look, what is the pairings for tomorrow? What battles can we be expecting? So Alina Kashlinskaya against Nino Batsiashvili. Alina will try to catch up to Alice and take advantage of Nino not having the great tournament because she did miss a giant opportunity in today's games against Carissa. Humpy Koneru against Bibisara Assaubayeva. Mariya Muzychuk playing Carissa. Nana Dzagnidze against Harika Dronavalli. And Zhongyi against Alice Lee.
Oh, the top seed playing Alice Lee tomorrow. That's going to be the key matchup.
What about our predictions? Yeah, mine is not going very well.
Sorry, yeah, I had a tough day today. I mean, it was so close. It could have been Yasser and Dario who were unhappy today, but wow, I'm still very happy. So are you, right?
Well, yes, I'm looking forward to tomorrow's round. And those 3 players that you mentioned, so Alice, Carissa, and Alina, they're looking for their grandmaster norms, especially Alina. She's looking at her 3rd grandmaster norm. So this round is very important for her because she's playing with the white pieces, and of course Alice is in the lead and she has, you know, black pieces, but she proved that she can win.
Absolutely. So thank you so much for watching the show. Tell your friends where you are hanging out, where you are watching the best players in the world playing chess, and hope to see you tomorrow. Bye everyone.
Thanks for watching. See you tomorrow.
This has been a presentation of the St. Louis Chess Club. Any reproduction or distribution of this content without the express written consent of the St. Louis Chess Club is prohibited.